Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today with episode 275 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it's me, Karak with ACG.
And I'm Dustin with Colin's Last Stand and Handsome Phantom.
Dustin, looking sharp. I just realized you shave a little bit? You do a little trim?
So here, I've had a pretty drastic makeover because first of all, I cut the beard and my hair is darker because I did it for a Halloween outfit where I was Julian from Trailer Park Boys, and he has very dark hair. And then so I had this really neat and trimmed goatee, and I'm like, this is not my style.
For you.
So I'm clean shaven. The semi-permanent dye has not really come out at all, which is fine because I think
good.
I've done the darker hair before for other Halloween costumes, and I'm like, I wouldn't dye my hair just to do it, but it's since it was for a costume, it's kind of
You know what sucks with dyed hair too is you can't be pasty white. So if you have super black hair, you look like Nosferatu. People are going to start asking you where your cloak is.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking, I was like, man, the lighting right now too is like, I feel like a little extra white. So, and I'm already extra white in normal life. Pasty. So,
dude, try
ginger brow over there.
Yeah, I was about to say, I tried to fucking make my hair silver, and I ended up coming out a blonde at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah.
I came out a blonde. People said, a lot of people, as it developed, a lot of folks were like, it's really weird because, I've always and forever been a redhead. But now I get a lot of compliments. They're like, you really look good as a blonde. It was the most conflicting thing in my life because I was always told, no, you made a mistake. Then once it was over, suddenly it was the decision that they didn't know they loved until it was gone.
Yep.
Dang.
Now I don't know. I don't know if I'm actually am I uglier now? I don't really know.
Man,
I think when you had blonde hair, you also spiked it. Did you not?
I combed it back.
So here's the thing.
I looked a little sexier. I think. I had
John Cena, the wrestler. He did the side part. Now normally he'd look fine if he was a 50-year-old businessman with fucking 3 kids, but he's not. He's a WWE
super
wrestler.
Jacked.
Right. And so he went from having spiky, sort of like the beachcomber hair, where you're like, punk kid, but he's ripped, so nobody's going to talk bad about him. And then all of a sudden he showed up, and I quite literally was telling my friends it was for a movie part because I was like, no human would do their hair like that if they look like him. And originally look like him, but he does. He likes it that way. He likes a side part. So I think the spiky hair goes with the blonde, almost like a old style Eminem kind of thing. Yeah. I think it looks good, especially you're younger. So it would work. I think it would work good on you. It'd be fine. What I'm saying basically is I'm attracted to you as a blonde, not a redhead.
All right, cool. All right, see, that's what I've heard a lot of.
I'm joking. I have no clue.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are new here, and we have been getting a lot of new listeners, we appreciate you all giving our show a chance. It seems like we're really hitting a stride here. So we just want to go ahead and recap our usual formula here. It's a weekly gaming news podcast. So we take a lot of the heavy hitters throughout the week. We cover all of them. They are going to be listed in chapters here if you're listening on YouTube, so you can skip around to whatever section interests you the most. On Patreon, we also have our own bullet stamps. I almost said bullet points and timestamps. So you guys can check them out there. If you're listening on audio platforms, because of sometimes ad insertions, the timestamps aren't accurate, so we don't do them over there. But we're available on all platforms. And if you want to support our show, get early access, we have the patreon.com/MrMattyPlays. $1 will get you early access to the show. It goes live every Friday night at around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as opposed to our normal show time, which is around Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A lot of you will also notice that our audio platform has been a lot more consistent. Expect that in the future. We'll have more announcements about that in the coming weeks. We're working on some new stuff for that to really push it forward. We're seeing our numbers already get a bit of an uptick.
Doing very good, Maddie.
Right?
Shout out to you. Yeah.
Right. Huge difference. So we're seeing a nice uptick on our audio side. And I think, Dustin, you should give yourself a pat on the back, too. Because
I didn't do anything.
You were the one who pushed me in that direction, man.
I just told you the way to go. You're the one who I did nothing, really.
Well, anyway, we hope for those of you who are listening, you enjoy the direction we're taking the show in. As we're getting more listeners, we will continue to listen closely to your feedback. But if you want a way to support the show, you can do that. And you can also, with an extra $1 of support at $2, get a bonus podcast every single Wednesday. So if that's your speed and you just can't simply get enough of us after 3 hours on a Friday, there's more waiting for you. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we get into our normal introduction section where we talk about the games we're playing, what we're up to, what we're promoting. And I know we have a lot of Watch Dogs to go over this week, but gentlemen, I don't know if we want to leap right into that. Is there anything else on your minds, my sons, that we can talk about?
Well, see, Matty, I'm a little disappointed because we had the opportunity to do like a dress up Halloween show. This is a video show, and you dropped the ball. I was ready to like come with like a Gumby costume or something.
Wait, I'm confused. I dropped the ball, but Karak's got a Christmas tree up. I'm the one who dropped the ball here.
Yeah.
Karak,
I'm a little early.
Listen,
I'm a little early. I'm a Christmas freak.
Karak regularly just straight up drinks out of a 2-liter bottle. The man can do whatever the fuck he wants.
That is true.
Trust me.
That is what I do.
So I don't fuck with Karak, and it's a healthy respect. And so I wasn't going to call him out.
I'm an easy target.
So what are we talking, games or like promotion? Because we
whatever
mix these.
You want, man. I don't want to dictate the flow here. I want you just to be like, Matt, I want to promote something, or well, let's just get into Watch Dogs. I don't care.
Listen,
I don't care, man.
I want to talk real quick because I don't have a ton to say since I'm still playing it. I'm playing a game right now called Ghost Runner. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah.
It's
first-person Blade game.
Yes, it is fucking awesome. This game rules, and I just can't recommend it enough. It's so cheap too. I want to say that it's 30. I mean, I'll look real quick, but right now there are like tons of sales on it already.
Really?
I don't know if that's like a launch thing. So this game is specifically I know like 3D Realms had some involvement with it. The primary studio is One More Level, which I've actually not heard of them. They some of their other games I've never heard of. God's Trigger, Heavy Gunplay Bundle. Okay, anyway, but yeah, this game is a action platformer first person game. And you are this like cyberpunk robot going around. You can run on walls, and everything is like melee, as we mentioned. So there's no shooting elements as far as I know, but it kind of has a feel of like Hotline Miami, where it's like a really hard arena with lots of enemies, but you start to develop a path in which you go and you take out enemies, right? And you kind of do the same thing over and over, and you like get this flow going. And it's just really, really polished and well done. It's like I put it almost in the camp of like an indie game with a AAA production feel. Like it's a gorgeous game. Like looks really nice. It has like full ray tracing support and stuff like that. And I'm just really, really impressed. There's a demo out on Steam. I know the game is also out on Xbox and PS4 as well. And it's getting a free next-gen upgrade. So for anyone who is mourning the delay of Cyberpunk and you want to get... Not that it's not a Cyberpunk type game as far as what you're doing, but it has that feel and aesthetic. And there's just a lot of other interesting aspects, like the way that you put in new abilities and like modify your characters, that there's like a grid and there's like Tetris pieces that are different abilities. And so you are trying to maximize your abilities by fitting them in with these Tetris pieces on this grid. It's super unique. I don't think I've seen anything quite like that before as far as like upgrades and stuff. But man, I had to start off by, singing the praises of this game because I'm just really impressed with it. And you can pick it up for $24 right now on Steam. I think I saw it for like $18 on like Green Man Gaming or something. But
I bet they knocked down the price with the delay of Cyberpunk. Like I get a feeling. I think that game had a lot of buzz, and I don't think it'll have trouble selling. I really think that they just saw an opening and they went, let's make this irresistible. Because for me, 30, I was like, but 18, 20?
Yeah, I'd have to see where I saw that. But it was definitely, I saw it for under 20. And as far as I know, like it's not like super short or anything like that. It's like, I don't know. I want to say that Ben said it took him like maybe 20 hours. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't
That's
speak to that specifically, but dude, I'm having so much fun playing this that I'm ignoring any other games because when I sit down, I want to play this. So yeah,
all right.
That's my shout out for games this week. And obviously we can talk about Watch Dogs too, or Watch Dogs, not Watch Dogs 2, the game, but Watch Dogs Legion
as well.
Yes.
That's what I think the proper English would be, but I'm no teacher. Karak, is there anything else you wanted to toss out there into the wind?
I did do Little Hope, which was the Man of Medan Dark Pictures horror game. The sequel to that.
Isn't that like co-op or something?
Yeah, it was bad.
That makes me sad because
Man of Medan I didn't like either, but
people like my one friend was like, it's fine. Like he's like, I had fun playing it with my girlfriend, but I'm never gonna think about it again. So I really had hope that this next one would be good. But
yeah, it's weird because that first one I thought was going to be awesome, but then it fell apart, especially with bigger actors. And this one doesn't have the big actors, and it still falls apart. And you're just like, man.
So, Karak, my question for you, since you reviewed it, first of all, were you an Until Dawn fan?
Originally, no, because I had some tech issues. Once it got patched, yeah, I did a second review actually for that game. Yeah, I liked it a lot.
What makes the Dark Pictures anthology not live up to that? Because I have, outside of a PAX demo, I have no experience with either one of these.
Because Until Dawn's always doing something, and there was a time where you switch characters to walk down to walk down the road in the opposite direction. Like it's ludicrous. And Until Dawn didn't have any of that. It's ludicrous. I mean, and the ending is terrible. And what's funny is I thought I was going to get chastised because I went off on the ending and then started reading other people's reviews and was like, okay, I guess I don't have to worry so much about that, because a lot of times horror movies don't work for me. They have to be pretty scary, pretty whatever. But no, where Until Dawn, I felt had, they used what was the name? Agent Dalton from Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. They had Pantier, whatever the fuck her name is, Hayden Pantier. And they used those. Yeah, they used those actors and actresses pretty well. First one didn't do so well. The second one, they didn't have big name actors. So I was actually sort of expecting it to be better because you wouldn't get caught up in being like, oh, this is so-and-so from such and such. But it's just filler all the way. And just a terrible ending. And they're like, play it twice to get the full ending. And I'm like, dude, you have to make the game fun enough to play once. And so what I did was I delayed my review to play it a second time because they asked, and man, what a mistake. But not a never touch. Just to wait for a deep sale, right? Like $5-10. This is $30, man, for one. You don't even get the entire, it's $50 if you want both of them. And to me, that's just like, what is going, I mean, like, what are they, like, it just seems weird. But anyway, so I played that. Reviewed it. I have done a bunch of Watch Dogs videos because I like the technical system in there, the AI, census system that they're using, and I've talked to some of the devs and some other devs who have played it now. It was cool to talk to devs and say, what do you think about how it works and stuff? And they're like, dude, there was some cool stuff to come out of that Walking the Walk video from other devs who were like, you have no idea how many in the future what somebody may do on this. And how it may change an open world game or a game where you might care for these people. Even if you don't like this one, the ideas are sound, some of the stuff they're doing. So that was fun. For pimping, I mean, I did the Walking the Walk. They never do well. I posted that today. It's already done horrible numbers. So it's like, if you want to go watch that, I guess that would be my pimp. Those videos just don't do well. Please, I like to do them.
Go.
But they just, people, like, if I'm really lucky, I can get 30,000 people to watch them. And those people love them. But it's like, it's just
high effort though.
And I just don't think, I mean, people come to mind to listen to a Tory Black joke. They, and the technical people are definitely a little bit on a different level. I will say, man, I got hats off to a company called Rocat. So normally they've got some shit equipment like mice and keyboard. They're a little bit like Elgato and stuff. Everything's overpriced. Mm-hmm. However, Mafia, which you and I both reviewed. Mafia, right? You reviewed the
no,
Definitive?
but I previewed it, and then they sent me that same package, but I didn't get the game.
But did you get the keyboard?
Yes, keyboard and the mouse.
So I didn't know I had this keyboard. I don't know if have I told you guys this?
It's so hidden. I don't blame you for not knowing.
So here's what happens. I I didn't even know I had this stuff. My wife's like, I'm going to throw all the stuff away. And I'm one of those guys that's like, throw it away. If I needed it, I'd be using it. It's not a dialysis machine. Like, just throw the shit away and we'll buy it again if we need it. She's throwing these boxes up. She's like, there's a keyboard in one of these boxes. Can I have it? And I'm looking at my keyboard, which after a week looks like, somebody just fucking ate like nachos over it. Like, keyboards are gross. I'm sort of inherently disgusted by keyboards. I'm cleaning mine 24/7. And so she gives me this keyboard. It's Rocat. And I'm like, well, fuck it. I'll try it. Holy shit, dude.
It's pretty good.
It's magical, man.
Nah.
My fucking typing, and admittedly, I just don't give a shit about spelling. But even that's increased. The finger pressure is better. The way it works, the way it looks, so much better. It's a Rocat. It's probably not cheap, but I love this thing. Totally threw my old one out.
Yeah, I thought I was imagining things the way it kind of like the keys when you press them bounce back at you.
Yes.
It feels really good to use.
And it's not like a normal mechanical, because that's what I had. It's like instead of a true clack sound, it's more of like I don't know how to describe it, but dude, yeah, I'm not a keyboard fan. I'm usually the guy who'll use a $5 membrane Microsoft keyboard and have no issues. Yeah, my friends will be like, dude, that's the shittiest keyboard. And I'll be like, can I walk forward with it? Yes, that's good enough. Mm-hmm. But now that I have this, so that's a pimp out to a company that, it was pretty cool to get that. So, but that's about it. It's been a weird week. A lot of the other stuff is getting next gen. We're not even, unfortunately, allowed to talk about it. Yeah.
That's one thing people should keep locked on your channel. If you're not watching Walking the Walk, watch for all the PS5 and Xbox stuff.
Yeah, next week there'll be some stuff. That's about the most we can say. So weird.
Well, we'll keep an eye out. For me, before we get into Watch Dogs, I did do a full review of that as well. So we'll be talking about that more extensively. This was a weird week of stuff to play. I put out a tweet challenging my audience that I said, hey, if I get 1,000 likes on this tweet, I'll review what I think is the worst game of the generation. I didn't specify what it was. And some account called Things That Age Poorly quote tweeted me, and I got up to 4,000 likes. So I'm going to have to do it. So I played the game. I have beat the game now this year 3 times. I still think it's a travesty. And I think it's going to be one of my funnier videos, though. It's kind of the idea is just poking fun and having a good time. It's not like truly like a critique,
right?
Like why The Last of Us is worse than you think it is. Not like one of those. It's going to be more lighthearted, but it is going to be like me kind of losing my mind over this game. I'm sure those who have watched my channel for years will know what this game is, but I don't want to give out any hints. But yeah, I played that. I beat it twice this week because it is a very short game, so that's not really it's not saying much. I did want to give a cool shout out to a free update that came to Dragon Ball Z Kakarot of all games. I beat that. Yeah, right. I beat that game. I platinumed it, and I never touched it because I was just like, all right, like it was just good fan service. I'm good. I don't need to touch it. They released one piece of DLC. They have another one coming at some point later on, but 9 months after launch, they do this free update called Dragon Ball Card Warriors, and it's a kind of Hearthstone and Yu-Gi-Oh hybrid card game built into Kakarot. And I tried it out last night, just kind of on a whim. Only issue I have, I'll just mention this off the bat, is you can't get into a private match with a friend and just play it against them. I imagine they'll add this later on, because based off the infrastructure I saw, it looks like they're going to be adding more, but we'll see. But yeah, it is really fun. I played it for 4 hours straight last night. It is really fun. Now, I'll admit, I've had a hankering for like a card game to kind of sink my teeth into. Those who've listened to the show for a while will also know that I've talked about Dragon Ball Super card game a lot here, and I used to play it every week, obviously because of quarantine. None of the card stores are doing like local tournaments, which is what I used to do, and so I haven't been able to play. So this is kind of like a good happy medium for me. It's really fun. There's a surprising amount of depth because you have to manage your energy, card types, card effects. Lots of card effects do different things, so there's a wide variety of deck builds you can do. There is a nice upgrading system for not upgrading system, sorry, but there's a nice way to earn cards. There's good rewards and challenges to chase after. You can play in ranked matches. You can play casuals. You can play in a tournament for against other factions. It's really cool. It's really cool. It's a very good time. I don't know what they plan on doing with it because it's kind of just baked into this sort of honestly dead game in the scheme of things. It's just sort of sitting there, which is really unfortunate in my eyes because I think if they put maybe a PC client out there, it could do better. But then you ask the question of, if you have this Dragon Ball Super card game that has like 12 sets now, I've been following it for most of its life. It has 12 sets. Why not just turn that into an online client? I don't know what they're doing really, but so it's a little puzzling why it exists, but it's still good. And I wanted to give it a shout out to those out there who like card games. That's probably the most standout thing I've played this week, where I was like, whoa, this really caught me off guard. Between that and Ghost of Tsushima Legends, I stand by my argument that I think now is the best time to be a gamer, because you're just getting these really cool things for free. I didn't have to pay a dime for that. And especially Kakarot, which just had like a piece of add-on DLC. It wasn't even like monetized really. To get like something substantial like that. Same thing with Ghost of Tsushima Legends, just something substantial like that for free. No strings attached. That's really fucking cool, in my opinion. So
Kakarot is still $60. I just looked on Steam. I'm sure it goes on sale, but I'm just surprised. That's one that like, since it came out last January, I'm like, I'm going to get that on sale at some point.
And it never goes on sale.
I don't know. I mean,
I would say wait for a sale. I like it as a DBZ fan, but yeah, like $30 tops,
right?
Because it's not gonna. It's for like Xenoverse and all the other games they've been doing. They kind of try to reinvent things. This is very much a let's do Dragon Ball Z for probably the 9th time. So it is very familiar. But with that, I don't really have anything else to promote. Just keep an eye out for that review. We're doing more news, and I'm trying to get access to as many games as I can for pre-launch coverage. I know I'll be reviewing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, so people can look out for that. But as it stands with games like Miles Morales or anything else coming out on new consoles, Godfall even, I'm going to have to figure that out as we go along. I don't think Demon's Souls is something I can necessarily get early access to because I need a PS5 for that. So we'll see in due time. But you gentlemen want to talk about little Watch Dogs Legion now? Kind of the big release of the week?
Sure.
All right. Karak, I got to ask, first of all, because you beat it, I beat it. How many hours did you sink into the game once the game was done? Because I felt it was shorter.
It is. Admittedly, I do a lot of testing and sit there and like do frame rate testing. So I had like 52 hours, but it wasn't near that. And we got it early, but I would say 30. Okay. So here's the other thing. I fell in love with hiring people. So
yeah.
I mean, and in love would be an understatement. So if you just do the main quest and stuff, it's definitely in the 30 to 40. I just don't know also what difficulty you would be on. So I did permadeath and I did hardest difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I chose that was because of what they warned you about and what I thought would be a weakness of the game, which was continually being able to just hire anybody, just grist for the grindstone, just be like, hey, come work for me. Boom, get them killed. Hey, come work for me. So I did permadeath. Yeah, 35 probably would be a good number, I would say. And I didn't play after. I ended up switching platforms and doing testing.
Yeah, because when I wrapped up the game, I was at about 20 hours. I
Holy
did
shit.
Yeah, I wasn't rushing either. Like I was watching all the cutscenes. I was bouncing back and forth between recruiting teammates and stuff.
I wasn't even 3/4 of the way through at 20 hours. That's weird. Okay.
Yeah. I the credits rolled, and it was kind of like a wow moment because you know how the game kind of backgrounds the story a lot. For those who don't know, that's really what it does. It doesn't put it at the forefront. It's all about the systems that you can mess with. So even when it was finishing up, I was thinking to myself, there's got to be more, right? But because you never really know where the story's necessarily at. And then I see the credits roll and I go, wow, okay, I guess that's it. What did you think of the tale that was told here?
I personally liked it because of the hero tale is for DedSec, this is the trilogy. This is what they said they were going to do, which it was going to be one character for the first one, a group for the second one, the third one will be everybody. So they fulfilled that promise. Guys, shut up. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's difficult, if not impossible, to tell a good story that you're going to care about when it's about a group. And this is about DedSec, who tries to pretend. This is like any group you ever meet, though. They try to pretend they're the good guys and do exactly what the bad guys do. They're like, the bad guys treat us like shit, like machines, and they don't care about our privacy. I'm going to hack you, and you're going to work for me. And you're like, what? So you have to disengage your belief systems completely from that.
Especially early in the game. I think Sabine's like, killing's not for dead sec as I'm playing as a hitman who's
as you're like, yeah, in the neck and shit, and people are dropping. And I'm tasering the fuck out. I'm driving over. It's like Batman, right? He's, they had to explain the bat tank away. They're like, it doesn't kill him, it just electrifies him. That's the way I treated everything in Watch Dogs: cars, people, guns. The story I was fine with, but it wasn't strong. But just so you guys know, I liked 1 better than 2. Even with 1's issues. I just was not a huge fan of the hipster element in 2 at all. I liked San Francisco though. And that's sort of what happened with this is I liked the systems, the world, how everybody fights differently was cool. The different animations. So I had an old granny who couldn't even go undercover and couldn't even run because she had a bad hip, but she could, she was a magician. So she could fucking cause people, enemies to join her team. Was just that was so interesting that to me the story was about like who I put together and getting like Sally Dump Truck, right? She's a secretary, she's maybe 40-50 pounds overweight, she's wearing a floral dress, and having her go in and take out a bad guys group was that was fun. That was
hilarious.
Cracked me the fuck up. So that was my ideas. Did you like but you knew that too. The story was going to be that way anyway. So
I expected that. I expected that going in. I like the themes. I thought the themes, it's because it's something people can connect to because a lot of it was based off stuff happening around us to some extent or another that I thought it might be interesting to people. That's what I said in my review. For me, I wasn't like in love with it, but I thought it kept my attention. But yeah, it was more so being like this guy coming off a construction site with a nail gun, breaking into a fucking expensive mansion of some mobster and taking all our guards. And...
Dude, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. And it's just like every time I thought I was done collecting somebody goofy, I would get somebody else and I would look at their profile and it was like, searches up S&M on the dark web or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, that's just a little blurb, and then I'd go into like their schedule, and like their schedule would be like goes and sees dominatrix and all the shit, and I was like, oh my god, that's just so weird. That kind of stuff I definitely enjoyed.
There's some really wild abilities attached to some of the people you could recruit. I saw one was a woman, and it just said doomed, and it said at some point she will just randomly die.
Yeah, I've got that too. Just so you know, there's a walkthrough. Somebody had only operatives who could randomly die, and they were dying all the time. There's a walkthrough on YouTube where it's like, I think it's called like Potential Doom or something, and they were like, I am only going to get people with this trait, this negative trait. That's awesome.
Yeah, I kind of defined it as like a hidden gem because I don't think the review scores were going to be high. I don't think they ended. I think it sat at like a 70-something, like a 74.
It's 75 to 80, yeah. So it's like right in the middle.
I knew it wouldn't be that high. I don't know if the sales will be incredible or not. I'll be curious to see that. But I feel like those who do give it a chance and sound like those systems sound fun to play with will really dig it. Like I think it's going to be one of those games where you're going to have a group of people that love it, and there's going to be a group of people who are like, it's solid, it's okay. But if you really like that team building mechanic, I mean. I thought it was so cool, for example, even though sometimes the dialogue was janky or you'd hear like the synthesization is off, that like you'd see all of your team that you've built in cutscenes together.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild.
Naked, by the way, I had a bug.
Naked?
I think it's a bug. Yeah. So listen to this. I think it's a bug. It's in my review. This one guy would never leave his clothes on, no matter what, dude. I would fucking get him and I'd dress him because he was not a guy. I don't want to see that. The chick, I had her undressed. She was fine. She'd show up in the cutscenes on a leather couch, just in skivvies. I thought that was great. But this guy would not put his fucking jeans on. So I get him all dressed up. I'm like, equip him. He's equipped because I know I'm going to a cutscene because it says, go back to your base. So go back to my base. I don't need to see his warm junk. Like I just don't. I'm not that. That's not for me. I fucking go into that cutscene, dude. And I don't know why they chose this, but they quite literally pan out by everybody's legs, and I just start to see like naked. It's like Jin in fucking Ghost of Tsushima getting into the bathtub, right? And it just zooms back, and he's wearing nothing but. And I'm like, dude, put some fucking clothes on. What are you doing? Like, no matter what I did, that fucker would always take his clothes off.
You should go in and check if that was like an ability.
I did. Dude, I spent so much time looking to see if that was a bug or a hidden goof. Like if they did it on purpose, like they, likes to be free in his. In his bio or whatever, but I couldn't find it.
Damn, that's wild. Dustin, how much did you get to play of the game?
Dude, not very much. So I did not have any kind of early access. So I played this was weird. I didn't realize the game came out on Thursday because I was up.
Yeah, it was a weird one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was up editing Wednesday night, and then I saw like a tweet. I think it was like PlayStation's Twitter that's like Legion's out now, and I was like, oh. So I've probably put in like less than 2 hours, maybe. But I was specifically wanted to ask Karak, since you check out games on all different platforms, what has your experience been like on PC? Because mine has been not good.
Mine's been perfect, but you are not alone.
Really?
So yeah, so I had, mine was good enough that that's actually what caused me to say wait for a sale, because mine was good enough, but I noticed a couple issues here and there, nothing terrible. It took me a while to dial it in because everybody explains DLSS. Anybody who understands DLSS, I don't know why the companies is like HDR. They can't tell you all to use it the same way. And so Ubisoft is like, set the resolution the way you want, then turn the DLSS on. Where like Control is like, set the resolution where you want, but set the render resolution. You know, there's always different settings. It took me a while to get that dialed in. Mine was pretty good. Not 2080 Ti good, which is what I have, like in this PC, the 3080s and the rendering one. But it was good. It definitely fluctuated. But then when the people on my Discord, who to a person like it, but they all have had varying degrees of either it works perfect or free. Like one guy was like, dude, I don't get it. It just freezes. Like I'll just be driving and it's like, and it just keeps driving.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Mine crashed 5
sounds
times.
like, that's a lot. But it sounds like Dustin had the same thing then, right?
No,
like
so mine has
it. Maybe,
it's mainly the problem is the FPS in that, like, I was trying different levels of DLSS. I was trying to lock. Like at one point I was like, fuck it. I'm not even going to try to get above 60 FPS.
Right.
Which at points when I was doing that little opening mission, which is all in the palace or whatever, I was like, wow, this game's great. This is running so well, which, you know, my brain was being stupid and not thinking that this was an open world game, because once I get out into the open world, the frame rate is all over the place for me. Like I would be at 80 and then I would be driving a car and it would be fluctuating like rapidly between like 50 and 60, 70. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to lock this down. Surely my 3080 can lock it down at 1440p, 60 FPS. And then I locked it down and I was still getting fluctuations below 50 at points. And it's not like I'm just being an elitist, like, I need it to be 60 and above in order to play it.
No, because that's lower than me. So you should have been getting it.
Dude, well, and it just like, I don't know, which I have G-Sync also on my monitor, but like it just felt jittery and nasty the whole time.
So you know, G-Sync is an issue.
It is an issue with this game?
Yeah. Yes, one of our resident G-Sync experts is in our Discord, and he's like, just like a lot of other games, for whatever reason, this one does not like G-Sync at all. And he's like, he was having issues, switched off G-Sync, and he was like, holy shit. And it's because G-Sync feels almost like it's double timing. Like your game and card are timing correctly. They send it, and something is going on with that game. And it's like the monitor waits a quarter of a millisecond. And so everything goes like, that
lines up what you just said as far as the weird. Yeah. Well, that's good to know, because like I was wanting to play it more, but then like when I sat down to play last night, I was like, okay, I'm either going to play Ghost Runner or Watch Dogs. And I remembered the quality of the performance. And I was like, I can get a locked 165, hertz on Ghost Runner and not have to fuck with it for an hour to try to get it to be somewhere, that's acceptable. But I just saw a second ago that they're already like this afternoon deploying patches.
Yeah. So I've got it already, and I got 15 FPS more. So
nice. Yeah. So I'm going to definitely hop back in tonight. And Karak, now that I know that information about G-Sync, that hopefully, because like I said, I'm not trying to be an elitist about frame rates. It was just all over the place, like real bad. And yeah,
I
as
wouldn't
far
even
as
say elitist. I,
I
mean,
don't
dude,
think that's elitist.
You bought a 3080. You want that shit at like
Right.
Not only that,
at least.
his numbers are lower. I was running 4K. So obviously if I can and I have the 2080 and he's got the 3080, we know 3080s have issues, but it's like that's not an elite. That's like a
Yeah.
legitimate complaint. And
Right.
G-Sync, that's so all those to me are completely like, whether it's them or G-Sync or NVIDIA, because NVIDIA also didn't have game-ready drivers ready for it, which I found. I don't use them all the time, but I found it a little weird to get this game. And we talked about this prior of like, who's the lead platform. But you look at this and you're like, why is there no game-ready driver for some of these titles? It feels a little haphazard on this game in particular as well.
Well,
too.
Ubisoft has no good history of PC releases, as far as I know. Like, Odyssey is bad, and I'm pretty sure it's still bad. Am I correct in that? And that, like, I remember trying to play it on a 2080, and it's not like it was playable, but I was just shocked at the level of performance for the card I had did not line up.
It is so bad that, well, first of all, Clouds probably, which is the one that they don't know why. But
I remember that in the Digital Foundry video. Yeah,
the Special K mod is fantastic for the Origins and for Odyssey. What the Special K mod is, a guy found out that all Ubisoft games, if you look at how they use their CPU, they take their orders of instructions and they keep pinging the CPU and sort of saying like, I'm here, instead of saying I'm here and waiting. So what this guy did is called the Special K mod, and it works for Origins, Odyssey. It'll probably work for Legion. It'll work for a lot of non-Ubisoft games as well. And it rewrites the entire way it handles the scheduling, and people are getting dramatic. And I run it. I would never play Odyssey or Origins without that mod. It's a GitHub mod. It's been cleared. Virus Totals cleared it. He's a pretty well-known guy now. And it's so anybody listening, if you're having any issues with Ubisoft, it's called Special K. And it's good enough that a lot of other mod makers are like, hey, if you want to, mess around with this game, run that as well.
What's going on in the development of these games that they're just like, the way we're doing this is completely inefficient as far as what you said about the CPU instructions and stuff. This is fine. And then it's just so funny to me when there's like this special kit, this mod, I don't know whether it's a team or if it's one guy from what it sounds like. It's like one guy goes in and fixes it. Okay.
Well, one guy Durante fixed Dark Souls. Remember that?
Yeah.
The Durante.
Dude.
He completely fixed that game. So
I spent an extensive portion of Sacred Symbols Plus shitting on From Software's technical abilities. So
so you know that. I
know. Yeah. And it just frustrates me. It's like,
yeah, it's stupid.
I'm not asking for every game to be like, Doom Eternal optimized, right?
Right.
But it just, there's a level of, and it's especially ironic that there are thousands of people playing this game that got it for free with their 3080 or 3090 and now 3070 that, maybe not all of them, but I'd have to assume that a good portion of them are having a poor experience thinking, what the fuck? I just spent $800 or more on a card, and the game that came with it runs like ass. Like,
and Odyssey came out with a card, if I remember right as well.
Yeah.
I think Ubisoft is known for that. I don't know, dude. Far Cry 5 was a disaster. So like, I know everybody loves, like I always get shit for this, but Far Cry 5, I have video of like cars spawn or airplanes in the sky spawning in the same spawn point, smashing and killing me. Like, it was just a mess. That's Ubisoft. And one of the things is the scheduler and the way they do multitasking. I remember John Carmack was saying that, like, this is prior to multitasking CPUs getting in the next gens. He was against it. He was dead set against it. He wanted the 360 and the PowerPC kind of stuff to continue. One of the reasons why is he said humans are not great yet at writing multiple CPUs and getting that scheduling. And he's right, even now. Some companies hit it, and some companies like Ubisoft have these amazing looking games that I swear to shit, their PCs have to be set up a very particular way, because why would a tester, right? Or why would the developer say this is okay?
Right.
Like, why would they even put recommended specs if you can't hit that? But then some people do hit it. So it's like, I wish Ubisoft would go, we've tracked these people who aren't hitting it. Their page file does this, or their this does this, because why are you hitting lower than me? That makes no sense. My CPU's a little overclocked, but I think I even have an older CPU than you. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's Ubisoft. I sometimes feel like they have special PCs that we just can't get our hands on.
The big question for me, which I don't know if you guys can comment on this because of your reviews and such, is that the claim of Assassin's Creed Valhalla running at 4K 60 on next gen just sounds unbelievable to me based on their track record. Obviously, I don't have any experience with next gen games, but looking at the specs, I'm like, is it really going to run at 4K 60?
I think that one you're in luck. If you like
really,
it, yeah, I do, because I played the PC version, and the PC version, Watch Dogs I had issues with on my preview, but not Valhalla. And
I was gonna say,
yeah, Valhalla in particular, Dustin, I don't know why, by the way. I could not answer you. Maybe it's cars. It might be cars. It might be geometry. So the geometry of buildings can be an issue. Maybe they have a calling issue where they don't know how to remove the polygons very well. But whatever's going on, Valhalla, I think you're in good shape.
I was just thinking in reference to Odyssey and its poor performance being in the same boat.
Mobile CPUs, though. That was the big issue with the Xbox One and the PS4 is mobile. I remember talking to a developer. I was like, how hamstrung really are you with the Xbox One and the PS4? Like, truthfully, I won't leak it. I just need to know. And he's like, dude, you have no clue. It's not even in the same ballpark. He's like, every single thing you want to do on a mobile CPU, including that they were already underpowered versions of the normal CPUs. That is a huge issue, and Ubisoft uses CPU. So Quake uses GPU, and Ubisoft with open worlds, multiple AI strings, uses CPU.
Right.
And so that's why we're seeing that. So it's a good question, but I think at the speed these things are running and the extra RAM and all that stuff, I think. I'll just say I think we're in good shape. Like, I hope. And by the way, I don't know about you, Dustin and Maddie. When it says at 60, fuck you, I mean at 60. I don't mean can hit 60. I don't mean peaks at 60. I just said this on Twitter. I'm like, you need to knock that shit off. You need to say it runs at 60, that's at 60. Or you need to say it runs up to 60. Because this variable shit, where they say it's 60 4K, because that is a good question, Dustin. Like, what do they mean?
Right.
What does Ubisoft mean? Do they mean up to, and that means during a cutscene when you're staring at the fucking floor? Like, I hope not.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I mean, we've already seen that a lot this generation. I think it will continue to get worse. And it's, I don't know, it's weird that, like, technically the term 4K isn't really 4K because it's not even, it's like 38, 40,
correct.
Right?
Our version of 4K is actually pseudo 4K. The real 4K isn't really used very much, but
so
is a different number.
The very definition of what we define 4K is technically not accurate. So, and then okay.
Well, I was just going to ask you guys real quick. You guys noticed? Sorry, I just want to ask you guys. Well, this is just popping up into my head, and I tweeted about it, so I want to ask you. Do you guys care how a game gets to 4K very much? Because one of my friends was like, well, that might use, PS4's version of super sampling or multi-sampling to get to 4K. And I was like, so what you're really saying is the game runs at 4K unless you're Digital Foundry, zooming in on a patch of fucking leaves like 8 miles in. Like, do you guys care? Because I really don't care. You want it brute force full K or 4K?
Sort of. I don't know. It's kind of I have a mixed answer because, like, for me, when, like, in Horizon Zero Dawn, it runs the checkerboard rendering. I feel like checkerboard rendering, I can tell the difference between that and a native 4K, right? Especially if you look at, like, the finer, like, leaves or something, you can see that.
Yeah.
I've started to care less now that we've started to see upscaling techniques that are as good or better with DLSS. Like, to me, if I can't tell the difference, then it doesn't matter if it's brute forced or whatever. I think that will be the case going forward. It was specifically in this PS4 Pro, Xbox One X era where we saw these kind of middle ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Very nice. Very nice technical discussion there.
damn.
We love that. Seriously, I know a lot of our audience loves the chats you two have, so it's great that you all can provide that.
Well, at least
As
we're
for
talking about this game.
Yeah.
Because dude, I think you're right. I'm a little nervous it'll just get like, they fucked up the PR and it's in a bad time. PS5 and Xbox.
It's weird. They got kind of Ubisoft got thrown in a really shitty position because they ended up delaying everything, which was on their own fault. Then I think these games would have been staggered out. But then 2020 happens where everyone's got to work from home. You got to change all that. Now you've got Watch Dogs. A couple weeks later, you got Valhalla. And then you got Phoenix Rising at the end of the year, which was kind of already, I think, in a bad spot. Wasn't getting enough buzz. It's a great game so far, in my opinion, from what I tested. But it's not getting enough buzz. And now you've got Cyberpunk planted next to it. So, and then you look at what's happening with Far Cry, where that got delayed. I think their whole schedule got smushed together when it was going to get, I think, spread out a lot more. So I know there was one time they were in a little bit of trouble. I hope that these games do find success because, for example, Legion is a lot of people love to crank on Ubisoft for some of their cookie cutter tendencies, and I get that, but I feel like they are really, truly experimenting more. Like Legion has ambition, which is something you can't say about a lot of games. Does it have some of its formulaic open world activities in a manner speaking? Yes, but the way you approach them is unlike pretty much any game outside of like State of Decay.
You're the second person to mention that.
I said it in my review. I said it's like Saboteur and State of Decay meet each other. It's like that kind of free the people open world foray of activities with like State of Decay elements where you're playing as whoever. Like no two players are going to really be the same, and they all have different skill sets and equipment loadouts. So I do think that they've got something kind of special there, and I think that if this does well, which I hope it does, that they could make a really, really interesting Watch Dogs follow-up to this where, okay, we've got the tech figured out. Now, how do we carry the open world space forward? How do we carry the objectives forward in a equally as dynamic fashion? That would be really cool to see how they do something like that. But
I have a question for you, Matty. Did you I had an issue with this game where I felt London, and maybe people from London have told me I'm right and that London is this terrible, but it's gray everywhere. It sounds
it's not the
one note.
It's one of the few games that at night I felt it looked best because that's where there was more color. I felt so. I never really thought about the gray until now that you say that. It was just something I picked up on now, because otherwise it is. I don't want to say drab. It's just there aren't as many things catching your eye.
Right. It's like almost monotone everywhere, and it was so weird. And people told me that is London. Like one of my friends was like, "Dude, I'm from there. Like that is sort of the way it is." But it's like this is an ancient city, far more ancient than like Chicago or San Francisco, which were the prior games. And I think they did a good job layering in. Did you guys see the video where somebody took Syndicate horses and rode them down those same roads that are in Legion? Because that's how old the city is. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like, even if you don't like the game, that we can see that in a game, that's very cool. But I thought they did a really good job of like graffiti looking very, like there were almost different layers of like detritus and debris in the game world. But then you couldn't go in any place. Like, except for bars. And I know you're not supposed to, because they've even said gamers get confused if you can go into every building, which I get. But I was like, I would see somebody come out of a building, Maddie, and I would run towards that black door. So the door would open up and a guy and a lady would come out, and I'd be like, don't close it. And I would try to get in so hard. I just wanted to get into one place. I felt so alone. So
yeah. I agree with that. I also, it's funny, you're bringing up all these points I mentioned in my review. Yeah, when it came to the world design, I usually always say Ubisoft makes some of the best open worlds. Does that mean they're the most fun to play in? That's up to the player, I think. I don't think that's the case. But when it comes to their actual design and something catching your eye and just kind of like the moments of whoa and then the moments of calm, like I always feel like they've done a really good job with that. This world in particular, though, it had a very isolated sort of feeling because you could only go to these open areas, like a open base, a open construction site. There was never that, like you mentioned, going into a place and seeing people and feeling alive, right? Like you see people on the side of the streets. Of course you would. What game haven't since like the early 2000s have you not seen like people on the streets? But going inside was something that the game is really lacking. And it sounds like a nitpick, but maybe it's because I come from a BGS background where you can go into literally every building. But I value that a lot in games, and that's what sort of felt like it was missing here is the ability to go into a base and kind of.
Well, yeah, dude, I don't have any shame at all, but I don't want to get into my skivvies and put a fucking pair of pants on in the middle of the street like that game has you do. Like that game's so weird. You walk up to a billboard and you treat the fucking outside as your dressing room. And you're like putting pants on. You're standing out in front of everybody.
I forgot
the
about
storefront.
that.
You're like, what is happening? What kind of world is? Why am I out here and my fucking my nuts hanging out in the middle of this store? It's so fucking odd. So there's definitely some. It's almost like that maybe is something that not cut, but where they decided. That's just not where we're going to put our energy. I do have to say the census system and the multiple skills overlapping and putting emergent stories together, though, is like I've returned to it today and I'm supposed to be reviewing, next gen games. And I quite literally was like, yeah, maybe I'll do a little bit more Legion. And I went in there and like recruited some weirdos. So,
yeah. It's probably because of all the data it has to stream. They're constantly like bringing new people onto the street that like have their own sets of abilities. And so I don't know if something happens when you go inside a building or having those people in those buildings and having to load it in when you step in and the sounds for those buildings. I don't know, but it's just a guess because I know it is technologically very impressive, what they've done and the fact that they've actually pulled it off. When a lot of people heard, and I remember I was talking on a podcast, Karak and we were just like, how are they going to do that? What's the catch? And they actually did let you play as everyone and anyone that you want, quite literally. And it was actually very cool. I don't know if you noticed, but if you like punch someone out and then scan them with your phone, let's say you wanted to recruit them, but maybe you accidentally ran into them or you ran into someone next to them that they liked, the game will actually say that they dislike DedSec and you won't be able to recruit them anymore. I thought that was very cool too. Very interesting.
Did you know you can get them recruitable again though?
Really? No.
Yeah. So if they have 2 thumbs down, unrecruitable. 1 thumb down, they dislike. And if you track, they have good and bad stuff. What you need to do is check the schedule and start doing good stuff for their friends. Their friends will continue to tell them, and you'll start to see the 2 thumbs down go away. And I thought that was really cool. I've only got it. I talked about this in the review because I had not done it during the review period. I could not get somebody to like me who hated me. And then he did. Also, did you notice if you go and save your people from prison or jail, they will get blamed and they will get sent to other areas to do guard duty. So if you go into an area and you knock them out and you grab your friend and you escape with your friend, if you look at the bad guy's profile, it'll say allowed DedSec to rescue their friend. And then that person is in trouble and you'll see them at other like guard areas having to like.
That's kind of one of the issues with the game is they have cool things happening underneath the hood. But for example, when you liberate a district, you don't see anything visually happen.
Correct.
That kind of says like, okay, this district is rebelling. And so what happens is it looks like it's just a UI thing. It's like, okay, I've completed
That's a good point.
District. Same thing there. Like that's something that you should be putting on display, not like in their face, but in a way making it more obvious because that is something that a player should see and would naturally go like, oh, wow, that's so cool. They thought of that and they actively did that. So, yeah, it's definitely got its flaws.
And his wife was mourning on the bridge, which was crazy. Yeah, wow. If you kill somebody and they go on dates or if they are married, they will mourn wherever the person died. So I killed somebody and I went to the graveyard near where I killed him. And it's like, like Melissa Anderson is mourning the loss of her husband who I had killed. And she's at I was just like, dude, that's fucking awesome. Even is just cool. I mean, it's just something cool we don't see in games. And I hope we see it in other open world games because even in Witcher 3, you never really saw the NPC. You would help an NPC and then sometimes you'd be getting attacked and the NPC is like, hi, Geralt. And you're like, dude, seriously? Could I get some help? Like, I just fucking saved your children. And yet in Watch Dogs, somehow they figured it out. So it'll be interesting to see how Cyberpunk handles stuff like that. Interactions and behaviors of people.
Yeah, I think it's strange because Watch Dogs had an identity of hacking, but I felt like it never captured it. It felt like it was trying to be kind of hip Now, I feel like this is more of a good identity for them. And so that's why I want this game to catch on, because I feel this is what they can move forward with. But sales will be telling, because I know Watch Dogs 2 struggled out the gate. I don't know if it ended up doing better, but I know it struggled a little bit out the gate. And I imagine it did well enough for them to justify all the time they spent on Legion. But
20 million total in Watch Dogs sales prior to Legion 3.
They'll get a bump from next gen
That's what New York
too.
said.
Yeah, I think a lot of games
that
are
is
going
true.
to. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
All right, well, those are some of our extended thoughts here on Watch Dogs Legion. Now we hop into the news, finally, almost an hour into the show. No problem, though. Obviously, the biggest news of the week was Cyberpunk 2077 getting delayed. A letter was sent out to fans just earlier on this week stating that the game was sent back to December 10th, a 3-week delay. They cited the reasoning was that they wanted to polish the game more and reach their expectations. Later on, after this delay, it was stated in an investor's call that the specific reasoning was, in fact, that it was the current gen versions, being the PS4 and Xbox One, were struggling to run. Meanwhile, PC and next gen versions were good to go. So some people have been arguing whether or not the team should just release the next gen versions and then stagger out the current gen launch cycle. But instead, CD Projekt Red has gone for a third major delay of the game. And furthermore, during that same investors call, they stated that they were not confident but comfortable that they could hit this release date. So for those of you who are sitting there thinking this is locked in, I'm not even trying to be like a prick about it, but it's not. And there's a chance this game does get delayed again. There's a very good chance Cyberpunk gets pushed back more. Now, Karak, you had mentioned a very interesting Reddit post that highlighted some details that was from a developer formerly of CD Projekt Red, which said some stuff, and then people are like, I don't know about that. And about a week and a half later, 2 weeks, we saw how that all came to fruition. If you have that up, we'll just give it
so it was a Reddit post. Jason Schreier says he confirmed, but I mean, you don't, just I could work somewhere and still make stuff up. But anyway, this is a confirmed dev. And they were responding to Jason's original post, which says, I asked a couple of CD Projekt Red devs if it's true that the majority of them wanted 6-day weeks for a delay. They said that conversation never took place, and that's sort of where it started. But as the conversation went on, some weird stuff started popping up. For example, these particular developers have stated that the game looks like it requires 4 to 6 more months to actually be ready, and that CD Projekt Red is actually looking at assuming the Metacritic versus if the game is ready, assuming what they can get away with. Mm-hmm. And this post is huge, but and there's some detritus and there's some back and forth about people getting mad, but it says dude, there's so much stuff in this post. Sorry, I'm just trying to find
no, you're good. I know it's a huge.
It just says at the end of the day, this is what the developer says. At the end of the day, it feels like CD Projekt Red management is just completely detached from the reality of us developers. And a lot of what they've stated in here was not only that, but they didn't know it was being delayed until we did. They were told via Twitter as well. So the developers themselves weren't aware. The words that I heard, which sort of mimic this, and this was almost 20 days ago, was that I'm not saying I disagree with that PC is ready either, but I've heard it's the game. Mm-hmm. So it's right now there's some issues there. Everybody's surprised by the delays, but I think what we're probably seeing, like you said, Matty, is when he says we're not even confident, what does he say? He says we're not comfortable.
I'll get the exact quote, but you can go on. Give me one sec.
I'm just thinking that exact quote, if you look at it and sort of look at what some of these developers are saying, some that are certified, we know that they're devs and they've been backed up by people checking on them, and some, that we don't. But it just seems to me like what we may see as a game, and what this dev states is that it probably won't even be fully complete when it gets released in the way that people expect. There'll be particular things that'll just be not there until a later patch, and they may just lean on that.
The quote is, "We feel maybe not comfortable but confident that we are releasing on the 10th." That is the actual quote. Yeah, one thing I'd like to add on is a article that is flying way too far under the radar that I think is is symbolic of what CD Projekt Red is going to do, which is I think they will get this game out December either way, because GamesIndustry.biz wrote an article saying CD Projekt Red's stock fell 25% in 2 months amid Cyberpunk uncertainty. CD Projekt Red's share price has fallen by 25% since its peak at the end of August, shaving off almost $2.5 billion from its market cap. This peak coincided with the announcement of the Pokemon Go style Witcher title, which I forgot the name of. But anyway, in August, CD Projekt Red's market cap was PLN, which is the Polish currency, by the way, 42.4 billion, based on a price of almost 461 PLN per share. Yesterday, however, and this article was written on the 29th of October, so this is talking about October 28th. On October 28th, however, its share price has fallen to PLN 331, its lowest point since April 2020, which was around the time the game was Cyberpunk was originally supposed to come out, but it was delayed, and I want to say January. At the time of writing, CD Projekt Red's shares were trading at a slightly improved PLN 346, which is still 25% down on that August peak. So it's starting to impact their share value as well, and it's concerning investors. I'm not saying, suddenly CD Projekt Red's going under, but it is hurting them.
Right.
And when it starts to hurt them too bad, they will get it out the door regardless, because they have to be a business.
And Maddie, just to add to that for our US listeners, in August 28th, their stock was $30.50 US. Today it is $22 USD.
Pretty big drop.
So It's not their lowest point. Their lowest point in the last 5 years was March 20th, 2020, which was, sickness related. And that was down to $14. So, which actually is pretty low. I mean, 22. But
yeah. So, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the delay is not just us being, gamers and, I want my game. This is definitely a thing that's starting to, I think, put CD Projekt Red's feet to the flame, where they are going to have to get this out one way or another. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it, given that I do believe that what Karak has said and what we're seeing in writing, which is that the game is struggling to run and it probably could use more time, because what CD Projekt Red's most interesting wording of the entire letter, in my opinion, was the statement that it is turning into pretty much a next-gen title, which means that a lot of their problems would probably go away if they just axed the PS4 and Xbox One version, but that leaves a ton of money on the table. There's no way they are doing that. I did a stream recently. A lot of people were asking, why don't they just do this? The way I look at it is you have the option to either sell 15 million units in your launch window in the holiday or probably 5 million. The game's going to sell well either way, but they'd be leaving a tremendous amount on the table by leaving those consoles behind. And it's why, I'm not guilting them for it or saying they're wrong for it. There's a reason why Valhalla is coming out on all systems and Watch Dogs is coming out on all systems. Call of Duty is like, until there's a larger base where it's a safe transfer over, you're not really going to see companies do that full commitment onto next-gen hardware. It's just how it is, sadly.
Listen, Maddie, you cannot disparage CD Projekt Red. Okay, they are the god tier. It's not because they gave me this jacket. My Cyberpunk chair got lost in the mail. So CD Projekt, if you're out there, you want to send me one of those,
Where'd
feel
you get
free.
that jacket? That a bomber jacket?
I wore this specifically because I knew we were going to be talking about this, and I just thought it would be funny. This is from E3.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
All I got was a statue.
That was from the E3 before.
It was.
That.
And the mantis blades on it?
Yes.
They broke.
Damn. I think Ben got one of those. The editor-in-chief of Handsome Phantom. But no, I wanted to joke about that just because since I was wearing this. But dude, it's become clear to me, and I don't know, maybe this is just putting things too much at face value, that there's something clearly fucked up with the management at CD Projekt Red, because obviously there's delay after delay. There's, as Karak was talking about, the different insider reports about how management is not in touch. And I'm trying to remember whether it was Colin said this on Sacred Symbols or somebody somewhere was talking about how they spend too much time fucking around in the concept phase of their
That
games.
was in the Reddit
think-
post.
Was that in the Reddit post?
But
Okay.
we talked about that 2 weeks ago, actually.
Was it here? Okay.
It was here as well, because there was somebody saying that they spent way too much time in the first years just deciding, and they didn't realize until 2 years ago what they wanted to make.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not entirely unheard of to delay a game after it's gone gold. This has happened before. And honestly, I wouldn't think too much of it if it wasn't for that quote in the PC Gamer article that's just like, what is happening? You know what I mean? Like, I think, Maddie, you're right that at some point they do need to they need to release it. But also, I mean, what happened? There's like this big marketing blitz going on right now, which I know that sometimes marketing and development are, I mean, not usually. They're almost always two separate things going on at the same time. But it's especially weird just because with the review situation, I know a lot of people were expecting to get it very soon. And now even they're out of the loop. So
It's really weird.
what's going on? You know,
It's going to be really weird. Yeah.
I think that, in the rumors I've heard, is that people already had it when it went gold, and that there's been a retraction of those. So it's
Imagine that.
And I don't want to. Other people who are out there can speak if they want to, but there's some stuff that is going around where you're just like, what?
Imagine
But they shouldn't. Announcing it's gold doesn't mean what it used to, because gold meant you had your master CD, and that was ready to be printed off, and it doesn't really mean the same thing anymore with day one patches, which, by the way, is something we talked about for years, which is that companies actually don't necessarily want to give a reviewer the end product, because they can say, oh, what you're playing isn't done yet, so any problems you have will be fixed on the day one patch. Is that true?
Right.
No, absolutely not. But this is something I was warned would happen by somebody who's left the gaming industry, and they were like, dude, we've talked about it in meetings. This is a plan. Day one patches help them call into question issues. If somebody says performance issues for Watch Dogs, they can be like, yeah, you just don't have the day one patch.
Right.
That's what it is.
Days gone.
Yeah, by the way, that is the game I was talking about. And that shit was atrocious. But with CD Projekt Red in particular, so it's been 2013, right? Was when they announced it, I think. Because somebody... Isn't that right?
I put that in my review, in my side quest video. I think it was 2012.
Okay, so
did
I tell you guys about the guy who tweeted me and said his life since it was announced to now? He was like, he went through 4 years of college, 2 years of high school, and 2 girlfriends.
Right.
Since it was originally announced. However, the idea of the concept phase lasting this long does not surprise me for one particular reason, and that's that they did do Witcher 3. And I think people don't realize that when somebody says Witcher 3 is awesome, blah, 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 the developer who's making the next game does hear that. They do hear that, and they're like, fuck, man, we got to make sure this is whatever. If people think that they magically want to give up, and nobody here said that, but if people think they magically want to give up last-gen consoles, remember that this was actually started to be created the year prior to the current consoles coming out. So they were aiming for current gen. Whatever has happened, their concepts have jumped an entire gen. If they're saying, hey, this has sort of become a next-gen console or game, that you're like, wait, what? You got through an entire console and you guys could not nail down. So yeah, I think most likely what will, regardless of what happens here, is you will probably have people who ran the concept. They'll just be known within the industry as people who can't get a game, to completion. So you'll see it sometimes with sports teams. They hire certain people that they know can do something to completion. And you'll hear it. They'll be like, this guy is known to get a quarterback and receiving team working together. And so they hire that person. And I think what'll happen is you'll just, over time, some of these people will just be known as people that maybe can't really keep it tight and running. They maybe need somebody over the top of them. We talked about this with Death Stranding. When that was originally created, I was like, what is he going to make when he doesn't have somebody over the top of him? And I know people like Death Stranding, But to me, it was a bloated POS. So it was like, he made exactly what I thought. And I know Dustin likes it. And I'm just sort of teasing that it's a bloated POS. But you get my drift. Some creatives need somebody over the top of them saying, no, you need to get it. CD Projekt Red doesn't have anybody over the top of them, except for investors. And it's only now impacting them. So
Karak,
there's
do you
nobody
need someone over the top of you to get you to completion? Is this what
Dude,
you're saying?
No, I can get to completion quite easily on my own. I just need multiple tabs. But with like when you look at these kind of things, man, how many of these companies get their games out and like you see where they're like a bad game will be bad forever. CD Projekt Red is the opposite. They've had one really good game.
Right.
I mean, nobody, guys, when was the last time you ever said, remember Witcher 1 and how awesome that was?
Witcher
never happened. It's never been said. Like, but they do say it about Witcher 3.
I think Witcher 2 was great, but
I did like Witcher 2 as well. Yeah,
but
I just think there's a lot of stress for those guys, and they can't wrap it up. They need somebody there who's like, dude, you gotta
just push it out.
An entire gen, by the way. Like, that's crazy. To all of the PS4, all of the Xbox, all the way through the Xbox X and PS4 Pro, they still couldn't get this thing out the door. That's
like Kingdom Hearts, man. It really is.
Or Last Guardian. Last Guardian was, remember when it was announced, and it was an entire gen before next gen when it got.
Yeah, dude. It's
What about a staggered? I was going to ask you guys. Would you guys be okay with a staggered release?
As an enthusiast, yeah, but I don't think they as a business would do that.
Okay. Personally, yes, but business move bad. Now, something I'm really curious about. So they have the gold disc, right? And we assume that those were being sent to a printer and they're being made. So what's going to be really interesting is, let's just say this game does come out. Well, yeah, if it leaks, that'll be extra interesting. If it does come out on December 10th, which I think we're perfectly in the right to question still the release date. Seeing somebody like Digital Foundry go in and we can see what was done between when it went gold and including the time between that and then the delay. I love that kind of stuff. Like, that's something with Digital Foundry they've done with that Assassin's Creed game, Unity. How the first version on the disc is an uncapped frame rate, and so they've been running tests on that unpatched version. So we'll be able to see very specifically what this delay was able to net them. I guess it would be the 21 days plus the time between the delay and when they went gold.
And it's not unheard of. I think people also forget that like GTA San Andreas had hot coffee. That wasn't made by a mod. That was a developer put that in the game, and then at some point in the making of the game, they said, we can't have people fucking. Like, we got to remove that. But that was fully in the game. Animations had taken place. Sound effects. Like, it was crazy. So you're absolutely right. What I do believe will happen, though, Dustin, is they'll look at, like, quests, and they'll cut quests off short. Or we'll see a lot of weird stuff possibly at the end of the game, where it's like you start noticing quests are tighter, or there's less people, things to like sort of get things sort of tied down a little quicker, and then just get it out the door, and then maybe fix it later,
Karak, you just unlocked a weird memory that I have of
hot coffee.
Well, it's related to hot coffee. Do you remember, Maddie, you definitely should, well, I'm assuming you would know about this, how Oblivion had like a nude model in the game files or something, and they changed the rating.
It was delayed. Yeah.
Well, I remember.
I don't remember this at all.
I remember like telling my dad, because I was in 6th or 7th grade, and he's like, I don't know if I want you playing this M game that has nudity in it. I was like, listen, it doesn't actually have nudity in it. It's just like in the files of the game, I could not access the boobs if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And eventually I did. He was like, oh, okay. And then it was the only game I had on 360 for like 3 months, and it was awesome.
I was going to say, that's a great game to have for only 3 months.
It's
like a multi-100-hour game.
Right. But it is weird how that works.
Yeah, stuff gets in there, right? Like, I mean, a developer thinks, as a joke, I'm going to put something in there. Sometimes it burns them. Sometimes it comes out as, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the original Deus Ex had a couple of little secrets in there. where, because Deus Ex was incredible when it first came out, the original. This is before you guys were fucking playing games, probably. I think the original Deus Ex would have been. But there was a thing where like you could stay after a discussion and wait, and the lady would walk off. She'd be like, "Follow me," and if you didn't and you stayed there, the guy would be there for a while. Then he would start saying stuff about a developer, and like bad mouthing. There was all kinds of crazy stuff in those old games. There was a bear dance party in Thief 2. So in Thief 2, there was a way to get up to the roof, and you could go around and peek around, and there, if you looked in a window, you could see a party with like dancing bears and shit. Oh. Like a lot of that kind of stuff is sort of stuck in games. Hot Coffee shows that full parts can be stuck in a game. I mean, GTA 5 had, look at what they just did the patch which put ferries in there now, the boats, the ability to use those, and a bunch of stuff that was already, a lot of that stuff was in the game already. So Cyberpunk is going to be a couple people's channels claim to fame, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Right? If you want anybody listening, if you want to be a louse on society right now, create a channel, call it The Truth, and fucking do nothing but CD Projekt Red videos. 1 second saying you love them, the next second dissing on them, and you will be a multimillionaire.
Just a nice back and forth relationship with them.
Yeah.
They will love that. It's definitely going to be like a big content game. I think that's why people are like, if you look at other examples of games that have been in a similar situation to CD Projekt Red is right now, it'd be a huge red flag. But just because I think there's so much content based around it, there's so much traffic based around it, there's so much hype obviously based around it. But I think a lot of businesses ride on it right now. So it's like, it's one of those things where people are like, this can't be bad. This can't go wrong. There's no way it can. I also think it's a degree of like, we know CD Projekt Red does understand better than I think other companies. They're not like a Square Enix with a track record of like, hey, let's leave Final Fantasy in development hell for a while and Kingdom Hearts and finally release them. And then like in the case of Final Fantasy 15, just tons of DLC. And then just one day they're like, yeah, we're stopping it because it's kind of like a failed game. So it's a very unique scenario, but it's also quite familiar, and I hope people are keeping their expectations in check. I have no doubt it'll be a great game, but these problems don't arise for no reason. But if all goes well, and it is as fantastic as we hope, then, hey, man, we're the biggest winners in the game, aren't we?
Right, Matty. Just keep saying it's going to be a great game, and maybe you can get a Cyberpunk chair also.
I would love a Cyberpunk chair. I would love a new chair of any kind in my house. This one's fine that I'm sitting in, but the one at my house is fucking up my body for sure. Anytime I sit in it, I'm like, I feel like death. So
you're dying.
Bothers me a little bit about games, though. I just want to put in there, it bothers me a little bit that you even have to, like, that we have to worry about one game for the entire fall. There's something about this is like been bothering me about Cyberpunk for a long time. Like this. Like, I know a lot of people are like, I'm going to be playing Legion or I hope Legion holds me over until this. I hope this holds me over. I hope there's nothing that comes out after Cyberpunk for 6 weeks. And you're just like, man, where did we go wrong? Like, there's something really weirdly myopic about it. That just, it feels really uncomfortable that at some point we're all going to get so burned. Because I'm going to tell you guys right now, how many games this year have come out where we can't believe they're out. Well, look at Yakuza Like a Dragon's coming out. It's like, we remember when you first saw that and you're like, real-time strategy, what the fuck? Or turn-based, what the fuck? Yeah, all these games, Ghost of Tsushima, we saw that years ago, and it's out, right? And when Cyberpunk releases, that will be the end of a hype period of 8 years. And I don't think people realize that 8 years of a hype period is almost incomprehensible what even landscape you're going to look at afterwards. I mean, what happens the day after that gets out? What happens the day after you own that game? You look at everything else and go, oh. Like, and
it just purpose leaves their lives.
Yeah, and it feels like we're hinging too much on it. And that bothers me too, because like, I think it's just dramatically unhealthy for any industry to lean that heavily on it.
Maddie and I lived through the Kingdom Hearts 3 cycle. We are seasoned pros of disappointment. Yeah. So,
but don't you guys believe that Kingdom Hearts 3 is like 1/100th as big as Cyberpunk? I feel like Cyberpunk is so big, dude. Keanu Reeves, like, fucking movie stars are talking about it
on a level of the world, on a personal level. Is what I was
sure.
speaking
Yeah,
of.
no. I've lived through my fair share of terrible games. You guys really thought Kingdom Hearts was that bad?
I like it. I just know it's very flawed.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's way. Here's the thing: is that you've got the normal mode. Not to offshoot us here, but like it's got a normal mode.
I haven't played it much more. So
it's way too easy, and then they added critical mode, which is it's good for people who like critical mode, which is it's really hard, but it'll just kill you like 18 times in like the same fight, and you go, oh my god! But like the base game is way too easy. The lacking of Disney battles, I don't give a fuck what legal reasons there are because of it. I've played years and years of Kingdom Hearts games with Disney bosses that tie them in heavily into the story, really left that all on the table and just like they're like
no Final Fantasy characters.
Yeah, no Final Fantasy characters. Like it was Sora's story, and that's fine. But Sora is a part, in my opinion, of Kingdom Hearts. It's those three things coming together: Sora and his team, the Final Fantasy characters, Disney, all mashed together. I didn't expect it to be amazing, when it finally came out, just because it was in development for so long. But I felt like what happened was every story section, they'd like stop and talk almost not to Sora, but to the player. They'd be like, we're going to over-explain this because we understand how convoluted and crazy this plot has got.
Oh.
We're going to really sit you down and just talk. And so like he'd say something, like he'd do things that like, have you ever watched a villain function and you go, what if I were in his shoes? Would I explain my plot and then explain the next phase and then explain the backstory of it and be like, it's like, what the fuck are you? What kind of bad guy are you? What are you doing, bro? And that game was just loaded with that. That's where I really started to pick up on that and go like, this isn't, I get it's Kingdom Hearts, but like, this isn't normal in my opinion. But
yeah.
What were you about to say, Dustin?
I was just going to say that Kingdom Hearts 3 for me, like, was satisfying from a sense of relief that I no longer had to wait for it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it sold really well too.
It was weird because it was, again, I enjoyed it. I'm like, I had a good time with it, but it didn't feel right. Something about it wasn't right. It didn't feel like the homecoming that I was hoping it would be.
Final Fantasy VII Remake does.
Oh,
that's what all this feels like to me. Because that game came and went, and we don't even talk about it at all.
Yeah,
here.
I guess it's just that I played. What happened was I really liked Kingdom Hearts 3. I was a big defender of it. Then I played 7 Remake and went, oh, they really just did Kingdom Hearts 3 dirty. That's what I thought after I beat. After I beat 7 Remake, I was like, wow, they put a lot of effort into this in a lot of areas. They dropped the ball in some areas, like the Tank Buster boss fight right before that, where you're just going through like room after room, and you're like, what the fuck are they doing?
Or the motorbike races, or not races, but the motorbike scenes was just like,
stupid.
What the fuck is happening?
Dude,
leave that in the past. But
and the sewer part, I couldn't stand that part where you're going through this. I feel like you go through that sewer like 2 or 3 times.
But isn't that another good example, though, of like hinging, and then when it gets done, it's just gone? I guess what I'm trying to alert people to is like, don't stress it so much, because everybody was stressing Final Fantasy. Dude, I had friends who were like, I'm going to stream Final Fantasy VII for like 80 hours. I'm going to win it 3 times. And like 20 hours after it came out, they weren't even talking about it anymore. And I just feel like we're always waiting for the next big thing. And that is really we don't spend time with the thing anymore, if that makes sense.
Agree.
It's almost like
guilty of that when I was younger.
You're almost like collecting it and then put it down and get the next thing.
Like with a toy. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I used to be like that in like high school. I'd get the thing. I would play it to completion, but I'd just quickly move on to the next game. I just feel like the industry's so fast moving, nothing's going to slow it down, right? Like, look at this fall. Yeah. Look at, everyone's always talking about like, I'm guilty of it too. Like catching up on my backlog. I'll wait for a slow period. I'll wait for this time. Like I'll wait for summer. I'm sure there'll be nothing there. Something will happen in the summer that will grab your attention. It's just a matter of like putting in the effort, playing it when you want to. There's always going to be something new coming out. So it's like, I feel like if you adopt that mindset of like, I hope this holds me over till, like, you're just doing yourself a disservice, because you're just, there's always something new to move on to. Like, you've just got to buy the thing and stick with it. It's a degree of dedication.
And
we just don't.
Okay, Karak.
Go for it. No.
I was just going to say that Karak, what you were saying as far as like the lead up to games, and there's all this plan to play it for so long. It's weird now because I think we're almost in a space where, and I don't think people like this idea, but I think it's the truth, is the meta content to some people is as enjoyable or as important as the content itself, which is what we're doing right here, ironically.
Yeah, exactly.
This is meta content. Yep. And people enjoy this as much as the games that we talk about. Yep. And that's something that I've wrestled with a lot, just from, I don't know, maybe when I'm like, it's late at night and I've had either too much to drink or other substances, like, what I'm putting into the world is just meta content. It's not actually something of it.
It's not a creative content almost.
Right. Yeah.
From a core. Yeah.
And with this cycle of a game and how it comes and goes, it's just interesting when you think about it.
I'm questioning everything I've ever done.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry. As I bring everybody down, all I was saying was like, no, I would like, I didn't think about the meta stuff, but that has definitely bothered me even recently is like, I love doing podcasts and stuff, but it's like, if a game is good, we can talk about it. If a game is bad, we can talk about it. If a game is mediocre, we have a very difficult time talking about it. Because there's nothing, it's just like a review. It's hard to review a mediocre game because you have to figure out, like, what do you hyperbolize to make it sound, like, funnier in your review, or what do you, or what do you just say, it was boring and this wasn't very good, or it was all average. But with meta content, we move on so quick that, not only that, but guys, I'm telling you right now, if you said, what's the main name of a character in almost any game this year, games I loved, I would have a difficult time telling you. Ori, because the fucking game is called that.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to be able to, like, those characters would come out, even Shadow Man, which wasn't even a good fucking game, but I spent more time with it. And I just feel that, like, it's difficult to even, like, dig deep anymore and into one thing.
It's interesting. I always keep track of a little list of games I beat every year. And I was kind of looking at everything I played because I updated it for Watch Dogs Legion, of course. And I realized that outside of really Persona, I haven't loved anything. I enjoyed Final Fantasy. I enjoyed a lot of games this year. Watch Dogs even. I enjoyed that, but like it was clearly flawed. Like, and I think part of it may be a product of like the times we're in right now.
What about Ghost?
Ghost, I liked a lot. Yeah, sorry, I almost forgot about that one.
Right.
I guess it's like I think of the last couple of years where I think there were pretty clear like 1, 2, 3 hits, and maybe a lot more are going to hit me now because I haven't tried Hades. I'm going to try that soon.
Okay.
I'm really excited for Valhalla, but I feel like usually there's those titles that sneak up on me. Last year it was Dragon Quest Builders 2. It was like, dude, what? This is amazing. I haven't really had that experience so far this year, and I don't know if that's just me. I don't know if you guys have had a similar thing here. Maybe I'm not playing enough of the smaller games. Like I'm spending my time with these free updates like Card Warriors. That's not going to be like a game of the year kind of thing. A hidden gem maybe, but I just want to know if you guys are in the same boat on that.
No, I am.
I think I'm with you. I mean, Persona 5 Royal, I think, had a pretty substantial impact overall as far as its story staying in my mind for a long time. Mm-hmm. The only game this year that made me like really stop and be like, holy shit, this is unlike anything is Half-Life Alyx.
Just because Half-Life Alyx
I gotta play.
Yeah, that's high.
Dude, it's so good.
I just don't want to fire my Oculus, Karak.
It's weird because I feel like I've played good games and even great games that I have moved on and not even really thought about, like Last of Us Part 2 or Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake. These are all games that I liked and enjoyed, and some of them I'd even say are great or awesome. But I don't know. Maybe, Maddie, you're right. It is about this continual cycle of enjoyment that we're just like in and out, in and out. Maybe, is it a problem? I don't know.
I would say it is, but then you have a game. The way I look at it is we're lucky enough to be going game. Like we're going on to the next one. This is our profession, our livelihoods. We're very lucky to do what we do. So when I get a game like Persona 5 that, as someone who plays a lot of games and is always moving to them, that does resonate with me, does stick with me, and I'm sitting there like shaking up for days thinking about it, and I get so inspired by it that I start like changing how I operate and in my work cycle. I'm like, dude, that makes it all the more worth it, and that makes it like I want to sing the praises of that game. So in a way, yeah, like I guess we are used to it, right? But I think that makes it all the more trustworthy from us, not because we're sitting here ungrateful, like stupid. Like we can talk about Watch Dogs and go, yeah, we've seen these open world games before, but these systems are cool. I think it's just familiar territory in a sense. And in this year, we've seen kind of like big flash in the pan hits. Fall Guys, Among Us is still kind of popular, but like those are the games that are catching on. It's kind of strange to not see like Ghost of Tsushima Legends catch on. Even that, you could argue, maybe it'll get a burst as we talk today. It does have its raids coming, but it kind of just boom, boom, just in, out. That's kind of it. So there's been a lot of that this year. It's a fast-moving industry. It's hard to stick and stay relevant. It really is. But then there are things like the Xbox news, which people are still talking about. So I think people are more excited about the data, and then when they get it and they just get their game finally, they just go and quietly play, and you just see that. We see with our traffic, right? It's just, it dips down, hype period picks back up, numbers go up. It's just, it's a cycle. What is it? What does Voss say? Definition of insanity. There we go.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, a little bit offshoot there, but
that was fun. No, it was good.
That was fun. Our audience loves it, and we love it when we go a little off topic. Next on the list here is in regards to Halo Infinite. So Bloomberg, Jason Schreier, posted an article saying that Microsoft's new Halo game, which is Halo Infinite, loses its top director after the project is delayed. Chris Lee, who oversaw production of Halo Infinite at 343 Industries, which is developing the game for Microsoft, is no longer working on it. He confirmed to Bloomberg News on Wednesday. Lee is the second top director to leave the project in the past 2 years. I have stepped back from Infinite and I'm looking at future opportunities, Lee said. I believe in the team and I am confident they will deliver a great game, and now is a good time for me to step away. The highly anticipated next installment was originally slated to come out alongside Microsoft's launch of the Xbox Series X in November, but obviously the game was delayed in early August due to early August due to poor fan reception when it was debuted. Lee's role was sidelined a few weeks later as Microsoft brought in Joe Staten to lead the single-player campaign, and another senior executive, Pierre Hintze, sorry if I'm saying this wrong, to run multiplayer. So I did a tweet, as I usually do, when I'm not going to cover it on my channel. I said there are 4 games, and now actually I'm going to add a 5th here because I did forget one. There are 4 games that have had key positions leave in the middle of development, and I think the titles will speak for themselves. So the one I forgot and I left out, and I'm going to mention it now, is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Mentioned this last week on the show. We talked about it pretty extensively. So you guys can go listen to that episode if you want. The ones that really do speak for themselves, though, we have the products out, are Anthem, Mass Effect Andromeda, Avengers, and this one isn't out yet, but Ghostwire Tokyo had a lot of significant staff leave in the middle of its development. And I think when it was revealed, a lot of people were caught off guard because it wasn't what they were expecting. So while this move was sort of written, it was sort of written on the wall, given Joe Staten stepping in, as people were very hyped for that a couple weeks ago, that they sort of did an overhaul, essentially telling Chris, like, hey, we're not going to fire you, but it's kind of time for you to step to the side here, and we're going to get this project straight. I don't think it's super alarming, but in the sense of this particular person leaving the project, but it's yet another big name leaving, right? Like, he didn't go to another role. He just left. So what do you gentlemen make of yet another big blow to Halo Infinite, a game that I'm still looking forward to this game, just because it's Halo, but what do you make of this news?
Go for it, Karak.
Oh, is your mic muted?
Oh, he's muted.
No, I'm literally thinking.
Oh, he's speechless.
The longest I've gone without talking ever in this podcast. People note that.
That is so funny.
It's weird that he's still at the company, which I think is a huge telling point to what's occurring, because it's unheard of almost for somebody to be moved and then us not to see him on Twitter saying, I'm looking forward to my new opportunities, and you're like, oh, you were fired. That's not happening here, which to me does indicate exactly what you had said, was that they looked and they said, it's not getting done, we're bringing in this people, but you didn't do anything wrong. It just didn't get done. We want to go a different direction, and these people can do it, and they bring in something.
Kind of like you were saying earlier, right? With
get it done, type of people. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe that's what they did. And obviously, Joe, I'm just reading this, Joe, dude, if there's anybody to bring in, it is probably him. But I'm wondering, too, if Joe probably looked at that and said, yo, peeps, we're chopping this bitch down to its core, and almost everything you've worked on is gone. And I'm going to be honest, I pretty much am okay with that. I would be okay. It's time. They've bought Bethesda with their 8 trillion ducats, all of Africa's gross national product in one purchase. Like, you guys obviously have billions of dollars. You don't need to do Halo. You've got other games. Let those games speak for themselves, since we know it's not going to be release date anyway, right? Now we know for sure. Throw some of that money to other people and let Joe and Pierre something, he's handling the multiplayer, let them go in and figure it out, because I'm going to tell you, something seemed weird to me, and I never agreed with that weird multiplayer / single player shit we were hearing. It's like, we might release it in 2 parts. It's like, wait, what? Like, that doesn't even seem like a thing that you would want to do. To imagine supporting like one for multiplayer, then single player, then you have to merge them at some point. It just didn't seem right. They haven't handled Halo well. Yeah, they haven't handled Halo well since the Master Chief Edition on the Xbox, which was terrible. So I don't really trust them. So let Joe go in there and chop it up. I'm okay with that. I think we're done thinking Halo's like the lead for Microsoft, because it's too far gone.
My question is, what is the future of 343 after this?
Oh,
and
true.
Obviously, it's going to be really dependent. Well, I mean, it's going to be dependent on what the game, how it does, obviously, right? But we have just seen them mismanage over and over again. And to their credit, they do have fixed some of their mistakes.
Yeah, that is true.
But to me, I'm just wondering, like, what's left for them at this point. They've continually made mistakes with, maybe a different studio that wasn't handling at least what was at one time Microsoft's number one IP.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Karak, do you think that this could be, the end of 343 if we see this not go down right?
Yeah, I actually had not even thought about the company itself, but looking here, because you were right. So looking here and listen to this. This is what they've done, by the way. They did collaboration with Saber, who I like, but they did Halo for the 360 Combat Evolved Anniversary. Then they did 4, and then you get all this weird shit, the Spartan Assault, the mobile games. You get Halo Wars, which I think Maddie liked too. I wasn't a fan. I wasn't in love with the Halo Wars. And you don't really have... they've been existed now for 10 years and 9. Dude, there's no real good game on there. I don't have an issue with Halo 5, by the way. I think it's okay. But what I'm saying is there's no game that I would say is a Halo game, if that makes sense. Like as big as a 1, 2, or 3, or maybe even 1, 2, or 3. It could be. If they don't nail it, I could see Microsoft saying 343 is smaller, because why keep it big if maybe Halo's not their thing.
And maybe 343 returns as a Halo support studio that makes these smaller Halo experiences, and that they then farm out Halo either to one of their now many studios or something like that. And I think you touched on something really important to say here, is that I don't think that Halo 4 or 5 are terrible games. We're not shitting on 343 I don't think they make terrible games. But like I said, when you're working on at what was one time the most important franchise for Xbox, those games do not deliver on the name, in my opinion.
Yeah, dude, I forgot. So they are the ones who did Master Chief Collection.
Yeah.
Wow. Yikes, dude.
Yikes.
So not only that, they just haven't done much. And the good ones, everyone I'm seeing here is a collaboration. Halo Wars, Creative Assembly collaboration. Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, one of the best Halo games I've ever seen, the one you can switch the graphics between the old graphics and the new, was Saber Interactive, who's gone on to good things. None of these games, which was just 343, has done, incredibly well.
Apparently, there's some weird identity stuff with 343 in the fact that they hire out a lot of contractors.
I read that as well.
To do their work. So that's something that Chris had said on Sacred Symbols, and I've also seen elsewhere. So, apparently is that like a Microsoft thing as well? Like a lot more contract work? I guess that would potentially be a studio by studio basis.
I think it's studio by studio, but I know with 343, and I do, I do have families who work at Microsoft or extended family. I haven't heard that it's like a thing, anything more than a multi-corporation like Microsoft could have, because they are everywhere in the world. But I do think 343 is even more than most. But I think 343 is probably the company that's like hiring out for probably not their creative positions. Does that make sense? So they're probably not saying this creative director is going to work somebody out, but they certainly might say an artist. And so I don't know if it makes as big of a difference. But again, obviously it's making some difference because, like you said, I just realized this has been 9 years. This is how old I feel because this is prior to me even doing YouTube. And I didn't realize that 343 has existed that long and has nothing to show for. I mean, not nothing to, you know what I mean?
I saw really
they don't have a halo to show for it.
I saw a really interesting, Ryan McCaffrey said this, by the way. It was interesting speculation on after Chris Lee had left, he suggested that with the whole Bethesda acquisition, and now that Halo sort of lost its way in a manner of speaking, even though I still like Halo, it's definitely not as much of a heavy hitter. And I apologize if you said this while I was away, by the way. I wonder if they consider saying, hey, we own Bethesda. Let's make Elder Scrolls our killer app. Let's take ES6 and let's just lock that shit down. And, because they've done Morrowind was console exclusive. Oblivion was for a while. Skyrim DLC was exclusive.
I don't think in any world, Matty, that's not what's happening.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm just saying.
No, you're right. Yeah, why would they not? Like, you are absolutely right. Can you guys imagine them being like, yeah, let's not worry too much about Elder Scrolls being our number one? Of course, it makes total sense.
That's the thing. It's a little different with maybe a Starfield or a Wolfenstein or a Doom. I feel like those could be. I think they'll be exclusive, but they could go case by case.
Right, but in Elder Scrolls.
But in Elder Scrolls, like, people still play Skyrim. It's one of the most played Steam games still, and it's a single-player open-world RPG. I can't fathom a world where Xbox doesn't just want that on theirs for at least a year alone.
Well, Xbox needs to fix their mods. Because the reason Skyrim is there, guys, is not because Skyrim is fucking awesome. Skyrim as a vanilla, because as a vanilla game, I'm sorry, Skyrim does not hold shit. It doesn't hold water to some of these, but its modding capability is so good. So imagine they say it's exclusive or mods are exclusive. Either one is a massive bonus.
They need to figure out how to do modding with the Game Pass version. I've heard a lot of modders when Bethesda was acquired. I got a ton of emails from people who are pretty big into mods letting me know, like, hey, this is great, but this could fuck up a lot of mods I don't think they would, by the way. They've had plenty of releases to show why. But if it weren't to come to Steam or something like that, I think here's the thing is also Bethesda's very aware of the impact mods have on their games. They know. Right. Skyrim has sold for 10 plus years, not because it's a damn good game, but because people can keep it alive.
Matty, let's run with this theory, right? That Elder Scrolls is the new killer app for the Xbox. Right. Does this change the fact that, we never got an Elder Scrolls game proper this generation? Mm-hmm. We got Fallout 4, right? Mm-hmm. So if Microsoft does want to do this, do we see a culture shift within Bethesda game studios to release Elder Scrolls games twice a generation, or we see an Elder Scrolls and a Fallout in the same generation? You know what I mean? Because it's just like those games do not come out very quickly and very often. Which I think I see Microsoft being like, we need to get these going. Not that we need one every year.
Working on Fallout shooting, which would be okay because Fallout shooting is not so good. Imagine Destiny shooting in a Fallout game, guys.
That'd be amazing. Yeah.
Can you fucking imagine if somebody's like, this game feels like Destiny, but it's Fallout? People shit themselves dry. So
see, the thing is I want to know how much power Microsoft will be able to flex over Bethesda in loosening up their IP. Because the way it looks now is, okay, now Bethesda has already had like these huge gaps between Fallout and Elder Scrolls games. Obviously, Skyrim being the one who's been most abused by that. But before that was Fallout. There was no Fallout since like Fallout New Vegas, and it was like a 5-year gap, which doesn't sound like much, but it felt like an eternity as someone who was just on ground level for that. I think the thing is that does 76 bounce back in the next generation? It's developing a player base. So does Bethesda want to support that? And when they want to release a new Fallout game, does Bethesda want to do it, or would they want to say, hey, I know everyone goes to Obsidian. I think something along the lines of like even In Exile, like they have 2 really good options to hand off the Fallout license to, and saying like, hey, you make a Fallout game while they work on a new Elder Scrolls game. And the other thing I wanted to throw out there is no one really knows at all, and anyone who says it is lying, what Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be, because Todd Howard's own words were like, we don't have the technology to do what we wanted for Elder Scrolls 6 until now. So whatever they were thinking last gen, and they had to wait. So I don't know if that means in the terms of world size. I don't know if it's the multiplayer component. I would imagine there could be some type of multiplayer. The reason I say that is because
not.
we also know if it's co-op, I'm okay with that. Really,
if it's co-op, I'm okay with any of these games being co-op.
The reason I suggest that, and I don't want anyone to get all worried because I know a lot of my audience is very like, please single player only, and I agree. The only reason I suggest it is because I know ESO in their team is, I don't know how long they're going to keep maintaining ESO for. I imagine for a decent amount of time, at least until they get closer to ES6. But I don't know if we haven't really seen yet if Bethesda wants to let the game
that continue.
The online game exists past the newest release. Like 76, we haven't seen a game in the Fallout franchise after 76, right? We've just seen 76. ESO released in between Skyrim and whenever ES6 comes. So we don't know exactly how Bethesda's going to handle it. But the reason I suggested online is because maybe they want to make a recurrent Elder Scrolls, kind of like Halo Infinite, where it's like the single player world keeps getting updated. That could be really cool. But
I personally feel that you're not missing, but I personally feel that their idea is to do that with Starfield.
That could
they
be,
want 3 big titles. They want Elder Scrolls for fantasy, they want Fallout post-apocalyptic, and they want Starfield for space. Mm-hmm. And if they can nail all 3, there's not a tier left. Like, that's pretty crazy to be like, I mean, they've handled post-apocalyptic and fantasy, which most companies can't do. Piranha Bytes has tried. Not well, but they've tried. So I just feel like, for some reason, I feel Starfield is where a lot of them went. For some reason, like their creative energy. Because imagine doing your Skyrim 3 times. Fucking Skyrim VR, Skyrim fucking Lunchbox Edition. You're just like, oh my God.
Look, for all things 76 has done right recently, you can tell its launch and honestly, I'm not spelling. Yeah, it's still a Fallout, but it's also its launch and its post-launch support initially, like just screamed of like whoever was working on it just wanted to move on. They clearly wanted to move on. The way that, what I know and am familiar with the development is, like I said, the Maryland team was more so like hands-on with Starfield. So a lot of their, if I don't want to be rude to any of the other, if anyone from Bethesda listens to us, but I think their more supreme talent was also working on Starfield. So I feel like, especially with the new tech that they're putting into it, we've heard engine overhaul, which we'll see how significant that is, because even Skyrim had a engine overhaul and that was still kind of buggy. But more importantly, it was like a whole new animation systems being put into Starfield. That's been entirely overhauled. So there's a lot of like, at least on the surface, we don't know yet. Bethesda hasn't hyped this up. This is just in due part to the community, people like myself talking about it, that people get excited about it. Because it is significant for Bethesda to do anything technologically overhauling twice in a game. So I do think you're correct when you say there is a level of like excitement internally for that. I haven't been told anything like that from anyone in the studio, but I would imagine, given what we're hearing, what we're seeing in LinkedIn pages and stuff that just the community's digging up, it's like, okay, they're going in on this game. Presumably.
I hope so.
And you have to just, as a creative, we can understand this. I'm sure a lot of our audience can understand this. As much as they say we love these franchises, Elder Scrolls Fallout, it's a familiarity.
Yeah.
They're doing something new now. So they're not shackled by lore, which their audience cranks on them a lot with. They're not shackled by, it used to be an isometric RPG. Now it's a first-person shooter. They're not shackled by
do anything.
Exactly. They can do literally anything, and it can be very cool because of that. So I think it's very smart what they're doing. Number one is they are shutting up and just working on it.
Yeah.
They've really up until last month, they've really just not said a fucking word about it. And even then, they haven't really described what the game is, just the tech that will be backing it up. I still think it'll look like, because it's on the creation engine, it's still going to, for those who are expecting like unreal AAA levels of development, it's still going to look like a Bethesda game. But yeah, sure. It's exciting. It's exciting. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see BGS take that center stage that maybe Halo once held next to, say, a Gears of War and whatever Obsidian does with Avowed. I think Microsoft is retooling. They didn't just acquire 3 major RPG teams for...
From what I understand, everybody there is happy with Gears Tactics.
Yeah.
Its sales and its ratings were sky high. That game is probably one of the few games you see a side game come out and do well. Remember XCOM Bureau? Though I liked it, it was trying to take XCOM to the first person or first third.
Yeah,
I liked that
like
game.
Mass Effect.
It did not do well. Yeah, and I could see Microsoft, branching out with these companies, which will be fun to see. And like you said with Starfield, I'm excited for Starfield just because I love Star stuff. Mm-hmm. I love post-apocalyptic, but I think I do like their games. I may diss on them a lot because of their trash tier fucking engine. Jesus, Bethesda's engine. I'm sorry. That thing is just a piece of shit, but it's still fun when I get in it. I still buy off every time.
Yeah, they make great worlds. I'm excited to see. The thing is it's much like what we said with Elder Scrolls 6, not knowing what it is. With Starfield, we don't know if it is a planet.
Yeah, right. Multiple planets. Yeah.
Space travel. Like, we really don't know. And that's also the exciting prospect is when you see that direction they're going in, I would ideally want multiple planets. Just that would take, they do exploration very well. The idea of kind of No Man's Sky, in my ship, new planet. Yeah. How you do that without it feeling limited. What kind of procedural generation technology they're going to implement.
We're extending this, but I got to ask you guys, do you guys think there was a discussion that occurred within a couple days between Bethesda and Obsidian about where Outer Worlds is going? The reason why I bring this up is because imagine you're Bethesda and you've got your Starfield coming, and Obsidian doesn't know what you're doing, right? And you don't know what they're doing. You just have seen Outer Worlds, which is Fallout in space. Like, little touches what we're saying. Do you guys think a meeting because it feels to me like that was probably one of the first meetings. Was like Phil Spencer's like, Todd,
I never thought of that.
Come over here. What's his name? Farquaad or whatever. Come over here.
Argus Farquaad. Yeah.
Wow,
Farquaad. Fuck. I never thought of
Imagine that discussion, because it's like you got to figure out. You got to be like, I know you can't tell, because you don't tell everybody, even in internal groups. You don't say exactly what you're doing. But I wonder what that discussion's like, of being like, okay, we need to know.
Yeah.
At the very minimum, is Outer Worlds going to Outer Worlds 2? Is that your plan? Because I don't know if you guys saw it, but number 2 for Infinity, what was it called? The role-playing game that I liked? Not Tyranny. The one by Obsidian.
Pillars of Eternity.
Pillars of Eternity 2 did terrible. Yeah. Terrible. Bad enough that I think it was Sawyer wrote and said, listen, guys, I have no clue what you expect, but it didn't do well. You probably won't see another one from us. But Outer Worlds did do well.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do Obsidian and Bethesda, both looking at a futuristic game, make sure that Microsoft doesn't end up with an IP that looks a little close to something else?
If I were to make a guess, I feel this is just a pure prediction. I would imagine Starfield's next year. I would really imagine that. I would be shocked. I think any longer and it's kind of in trouble. I think Starfield is next year. Yeah. I think it's next year. Yeah, I genuinely do, because at first right. I thought it would have been this year, and I'm confident it would have been this year if they didn't have to work from home. I feel like that because, like I said, their team grew so much. They were pumping out games every 4 or 3 years with 100 people. I feel like that they've grown more, and they had new IP and stuff. I just feel like it was coming this year. Okay. At least a reveal of some kind. That's just my guess. I could have been wrong, but. This is the man who guessed when Fallout 4 was going to be revealed in 2015. But with that being said, I do think, hey, they caught me off guard with 76, so it's not all rainbows and sunshine here. But Yeah, with Starfield, I think it's next year. We know Avowed is a couple of years off, maybe a 2023 or 2022 if we're lucky kind of title. And I think that's coming first before anything. I think they want to do that. I think that's kind of their, what I have heard is that is their Skyrim. And I know you could tell from the trailer when you saw the spell and the sword in one hand, you're like, wow, that's they're trying to do Skyrim better, it seems. But that is like the internal, what I've heard, like it is their Skyrim. So,
oh, all right, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I feel like they are going to do that first. And if that is the case, then I imagine there won't be that overlap of Starfield and Outer Worlds 2. I read online, it was Daniel Ahmad. He said that Outer Worlds 2 was in pre-production. So take that as you will. But I think that Starfield has to be coming out soon because you don't want those two to be sitting on top of each other. And you also want the Outer Worlds 2 to succeed whenever it does come out. But I don't know what they even do with an Outer Worlds sequel, to be quite truthful with you, because their first expansion was just like a part of the main story. It wasn't really a...
Right, but there were multiple planets you couldn't go to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we already know you're going to Eridanos in the next expansion. You went to this whole new planet. I'm already forgetting the name of it now in this first one.
But I mean, wouldn't you just say it could just be more flying around and like, I don't know. I mean, that's like, to me, Fallout 1, 2, and 3, and 4 are in the same spots.
I agree. Yeah, I maybe it's me thinking small. I just don't know how you grow beyond. How do you grow what that game is in the idea of? I guess the idea was fresh when I played it. I really liked the kind of goofiness of like people speaking very directly, corporately, very casually about like how this company's using them without any problem, and they don't care. You know, that always kind of, I felt worked, but I feel like that's a goofiness that works one time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's just my take. But in a long-winded...
Sorry, hold on. I'll be back in a second. My wife needs a headset for some one reason or another. Give me a minute.
Yeah, no worries. We degenerated the conversation anyway. What I was saying is, so with Outer Worlds, okay, so here's the reason why I thought that Outer Worlds 2 would be like pretty quick is because I do feel that there's just smaller games than, you know, a Bethesda game, like a Fallout. Fallout's huge. Outer Worlds are these little moons and stuff. I guess I was just thinking more along the lines of not being a colonizer anymore, because that would be a repeated story, but more be like, you know, I don't know what it would be. Somebody in that, like a true cowboy, like space cowboy. Like that's just what I was thinking number 2 would be. But I do get what you mean. I think the big problem with Outer Worlds is it also, and Dustin brought this up. I don't know if he's back. Yeah, he's back. He brought this up in his, or maybe it was one of you. It was one of you guys brought it up. Is that Outer Worlds had the same issue Skyrim's had, where it's like, maybe this was me, but the same 12 people run the economies on these planets. You're like, how do 12 people foot the bill for everything? I think Outer Worlds would do much better with larger locations, which then, of course, will delay it even longer. So
a lot of people have said that. A lot of people have said they
the same 7 rednecks
I have
running the
heard
town.
Just said that, hey, when I played Outer Worlds, I liked it, but I just said, okay, I'm excited to see what they do next. That's kind of been the consensus I've read and heard and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I think it's many years off where it won't impact Starfield. So I do think that probably was a conversation that had to have happened. Like, at least, hey, when are you planning to get this out?
Gears and Halo did that. I don't know if you know that, but Gears and Halo, they had it. Yeah, because even though one was third and one was first, they were still the hero shooter, and they had to have like a discussion of like, where do we go? You know, they supported everybody, but they still had to make sure it was a little bit divergent. Like, you know, how do you do this? And they did a good job. So if Microsoft can handle Halo and Gears, I'm sure they can handle, you know, these two.
And the thing is if that is the case, then I'm even more confident that they had to have talked about Fallout and been like, look, 76, it looks like it's doing better, but like, hey, come on, like, New Vegas, like we're sitting on like $1 million. Your
ex-girlfriend does. There's an uncomfortable conversation happening at some point. Like, in those two companies, you said that all that hot water's probably gone from years ago. You know, it should be. In fact, I think there's something to be said. Have you ever got in touch with a friend you haven't talked to in a long time, and it's almost like double friend? There's like a bonus modifier for your friendship for a small amount of time because you haven't talked in a while. And you're like, this is fucking awesome. I'm wondering if maybe that's happening. It would be very cool if they're like, you know what? It's all fucking over. half the
missed
people
you,
are
man.
gone. We're no longer, we miss you. Fucking Farquaad's, giving elbow bumps like a basketball player. They're fucking like, boom, bitch, let's do this. I don't know why now I suddenly
Chest
see him in
bumps
like
in the
gym
business
shorts
room.
and shit. But anyway, I wish devs were like that, because I like the idea of all of them getting together and being like, let's slam this ball, let's do something fucking cool. So that's just my
Todd
hope.
Howard does a crossover and breaks the ankle of Pete Hines.
He's fucking doing like 3-pointers and shit. Find out Todd's just ripping it on the basketball court. It's like nobody wants to even mess with him. They're like warning each other. They're like, dude, don't play with Todd, man. That guy plays rough. He'll fucking knock you down.
He'll fuck you up.
Throws elbows in the box.
Yeah, he'll put his foot on your
look
foot
who's
and push
laughing
you down.
now. That's what he says when he pushes you over.
Todd, all 3'9" of him, or however tall that dude is. Oompa Loompa. Fucking, I don't know why. Now this has gone completely off. Sorry,
All
people.
right, I'll bring us back on track then.
All right.
We're going to move on over to Anthem 2.0. We don't blame you, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't heard about this news. Dustin's eyes nearly popped out of his head with sheer joy and excitement as his beloved Anthem has returned.
You liar.
No, but for real, I think I caught you a little off guard with that one. But
I'll be right back.
Anthem, all right. Anthem 2.0's update was revealed to some extent. We got a little write-up here from Game Informer on some of the ideas that BioWare is cooking up. They say that javelins are changing with choice and experimentation in your loadout. All items are categorized to one of the 11 available equipment slots. Weapons are either primary or secondary, allowing distinctiveness in their role. Mods and artifact slots replace components. Manage equipment and abilities are in your loadout screen. They want you to reliably create builds, so abilities are unlocks, not drops. So play with the abilities you want when you want. Empower your abilities by equipping them with mods. Builds are defined by the synergies of specializations, abilities, and equipment. Inscriptions improve build synergies but are no longer the primary factor. Provide choice and progress through the skill trees. They say each javelin can level up, awarding skill points, which these skill points can then be spent on unlocks for abilities, passives, and stat boosts. And each specialization has its own advanced skill tree. So a tree within a tree, essentially. They also want to expand on the fantasy and play styles of each javelin. So javelins have access to multiple specializations that cater to different styles of gameplay. And each javelin now wields a powerful artifact that can be customized. Artifacts, they say, we've heard from you that components feel like nothing more than stat modifiers. With that in mind, we're also experimenting with a new artifact system to replace them. Artifacts are pieces of superpowered tech that set your Javelin and Freelancer apart. Each Javelin type would have a distinct artifact catering towards its fantasy class. For instance, your Ranger's rocket pod would be upgraded into a Skyfell launcher artifact, a pair of black-mounted pods that transform into powerful rocket launchers. Further changes will alter artifact appearances depending on loadouts, as well as the ways players can influence the way the artifact plays. There are many more changes in the work that BioWare isn't quite ready to share yet, but these fundamental changes, says Game Informer, are a good start. Going forward, transparency is going to be key. So just a little write-up there. Dustin, did any of this, what I'm asking is, I don't think you've played really any, if at all, Anthem. I haven't played any, if at all, Anthem. Did any of this jump out on the page at you and you go like, whoa, I gotta get in on that? Okay, cool. Me too.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I didn't play it really nearly at all. I played the beta. And then I was kind of waiting and seeing after launch, and it became pretty apparent what the fate of this game would be.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe I'm being pessimistic. You guys can tell me if you disagree, but it doesn't matter. It's too late. And I see the arguments that are saying, oh, well, this is like, this could have a No Man's Sky situation. I think that despite the problems of No Man's Sky, there were still people there hanging around to play it because it had that sandbox level
It had something
to it. Right. It had something, even if it was the computer generating something to do, there was something there. Even the hardcore players, when this game was, the first however many months, I feel like they've all moved on. And I just don't know. And they've played all the content. Even if you loved Anthem, thought it was an amazing game, you've probably moved on because there was nothing to do. And to me, it just seems like this is too little too late, and it's better to just let it go. I would love to be wrong, though. I would love to be like, man, this game is awesome. It's the third person Destiny that we've always wanted or whatever. But I don't have any confidence. I especially don't have any confidence in BioWare at this point, if I'm being honest. But
I'm cautiously excited for Dragon Age 4. But when it comes to Anthem, I don't know, man. It's just, for me, like, I look at some of these changes. Like, I like the idea, for example, of the skill trees. Like, okay, each javelin can level up. You get skill points. You can spend those on abilities, passive stat boosts. And each specialization has its own skill tree. So you've got multiple trees. You got multiple builds. Everyone's going to be playing a little bit differently. I think that is good news for the game. But to kind of piggyback off your point, believe as well that it is a bit too little too late. I think, not that people will come back to this game when the update drops. It's so cheap that it will be very easy to buy into, to try out. We don't know what EA's plans are to market it. Do they make Anthem a free-to-play game? Because that could change things entirely. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but like, it's possible. I do think Anthem was fun to play. Like, it felt good to control. I don't know how many people share that sentiment, but I thought it felt good. I remember when I played it in the beta, I was like, this feels great, but there wasn't anything there. That's what I'm curious about. I get builds are good for grinding, for replayability, but one of its largest issues I know was endgame content. I know it was the loading screens, the quest design. Like, for all intents and purposes, and I say this as someone who's a huge BioWare fan, like, it was a bad game. And so I just don't understand the notion that, all right, we got this wrong. I don't know how much they spent on it, where maybe they feel the need to justify this cost and maybe see if they can retool and invest and earn their money back, if it's like a business choice. But I don't see so much there that they can go, okay, let's just go back to Mass Effect and Dragon Age and see if we can. And I know some people say this is just me being a fanboy, but let's see if we can kick the tires on getting KOTOR. Like, there's so many routes I feel they could go that it was just like, okay, this was an experiment we tried and we failed.
Here's the thing, though, Maddie.
It's that simple.
They're not coming. This failure of Anthem isn't coming off of a successful game. Mm-hmm. It's coming off of another game that crashed and burned. I'm trying to remember. They fixed it, and then they were like, yeah, we're kind of closing up shop on this one. Is that Andromeda, correct? Yeah.
They moved their studio. I think it was the Vancouver. I don't know the specific location, but it was one of their studios that they had closed down to move onto another project. And right when the game actually could have got its footing for the very heavily teased single player DLC that would have been at the end of the game, they decided to just abandon it. Right. Which left a lot of people, myself included, very bitter and disappointed, because at the end of the game, you're like, okay, we can build off of this. Like, Mass Effect had some of the best DLC, outside of Day 1 DLC for 3, but it's had some amazing DLC. There's got to be more here. And they just didn't do anything. It was like such a big failure. They sheltered from it. Right.
So is this a case that maybe they feel like an obligation to fix Anthem regardless of the monetary potential? I mean, to me, it's not, EA is not going to do something that isn't going to make them money unless they think that, I don't know. This is such a perplexing situation that I think BioWare finds themselves in.
Yeah.
And I mean, for these last two games and the way they launch, I don't know how anyone would justifiably pre-order a BioWare game anymore, ever again, until the reviews come out.
Yeah, I just think it's the thing is that what happens is a lot of time EA gets scapegoated for Anthem, but a lot of people forget that when the article breaking down the entire development cycle of Anthem, that BioWare had I think upwards of 7 years to figure this game out. So I do think it's a mostly BioWare driven thing of we need to fix this because we spent so much time on it. We just can't let it go. That'd at least be my takeaway from it. From the outside looking in, I admire their willingness to keep going, because we see with 76 what happens if you do keep going. But the difference is with 76 is, despite how fucking horrible it was at launch, it did drop a roadmap. It did follow through with that roadmap. It did give you content, and it did keep a little bit of a player base there for it by the time they could relaunch with Wastelanders, get some of their players back, and now they're doing another thing in December, right next to Cyberpunk, but another thing in December with Steel Dawn, which I think will make its player base happy again and will definitely bring in new players. It's slowly becoming what people anticipated, but you could sort of, even through, I mean, it to me, it's not the Fallout game I want, but you could see through it a little bit with some of its content updates and go like, okay, at least they're doing something with this and they haven't given up on it. And you tip your cap to Bethesda. With BioWare, they went away, they left the game, they just went, fuck it, we're going to just relaunch this shit. But a lot of people expected that relaunch to be sooner. And I'm sure even BioWare probably thought the same thing until they looked at the game and went, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is fuck. You know, there's too much wrong here. I think it's going to come out even under a different name. It was supposed to be called a completely different game. I feel like they are going to walk away from the Anthem brand. I think they're calling it Anthem 2.0 for now, but it is definitely going to be something else.
Matt, I think you're right. I think that the only chance of redemption is making it free to play at this point.
Free to play, and don't even call it Anthem.
I never even thought about calling it something completely different.
It was supposed to be a different name, so Anthem was the name they picked. I think, like, what was it, Karak? Like a day before E3, or
I remember that story.
Yeah. But I would say, I personally feel that they've all moved on and that we're being lied to, and that what we're actually seeing is them having just a couple people wrapping this up to 2.0, and that most of those, especially because they merged with the BioWare guys merged with Motive. I just feel that most of those guys there's other games these guys want to make, and I just don't think anything with Anthem is causing them to stick around. The Anthem was nothing like any other game that even came out. I was looking at it a couple days ago. It didn't even play like any normal game. It had 3-minute missions. It was pieced together. It felt like something that was made for a generation or two ago. I can see them doing 2.0, but I remember, to make a game can take 500 people. To keep a game going or do an expansion can take 20. So I am just wondering if we have heard it yet. I just assume a lot of these people have moved on to other projects, and that's what we'll hear. Because, I mean, what are you going to do? Free to play would be great. And if it works, they could rehire and move people around. But my opinion is that and anybody who works on that kind of stuff, they don't have the full staff working on the 2.0. That doesn't make any sense, because some of those people might be, let's say, asset artists. There is no requirement for them to be on a 2.0. So what do? Well, you don't leave them not working. So if you have another company in the publisher, that person goes and works for them. So that's why I'm saying that my personal belief is there's probably a much smaller team than any of us are even aware of doing this.
Right.
And, and then see how it goes. Dude, come on. Like you guys said, who'd return to Anthem? Anthem was, dude, I like the beta because it was only like 3 minutes. And that was the time that the mission lasted. But I was playing with Takedown and Absy going, man, this could be fun. Like, I had some good control. I had some cool stuff. And then you realize you can't fly all the time. You have to fucking do this weird jet. Like, everything about the game felt like it should have been monetized like a mobile game to sell you energy. It's like, here's some energy. Hey, do you not want to go back home? Well, guess what? You have to pay us, and we won't respawn you back in this fucking shitty-ass place. You want to walk full speed in the city? Well, you can't do that unless you buy fucking special shoes for $5. Like, the design that they had was so broken and ill-conceived that it didn't even make sense when you actually played it. You were just like, none of this makes sense. It was poorly made. Andromeda, on the other hand, was made by lazy people. And yes, that's one of the few times I'll say lazy devs. Somebody looked at Anthem and thought that was okay, and somebody looked at Andromeda and thought that was okay, but I think for completely different reasons. And I'm sorry, but Anthem, man, I rarely say don't return. I'm usually like, let the devs do what they want. But with that, I think they burn themselves. Like, that, move on, man. Move. Try something else. Maybe come back to the general idea at a later time. They didn't even build lore, guys. There's no lore there for me to catch on to. If there was lore in Anthem where I was like, whoa, what happened in the past in this place? What are these suits? I didn't even know I didn't even know Matty was talking about a suit until he said it like the name the second or third time. And I'm like, oh, that's a suit. That's not a creature he's talking about. So
yeah, and it is sad. And I know for you, Matty, I know this is probably an extremely difficult situation since you love Knights of the Old Republic so much, but we have to get in our minds at this point that BioWare is not the company that it once was.
Yeah, it's not even BioWare anymore.
Right.
That's why, and this is me. I will be fully transparent.
There's no Knights of the Old Republic, bro.
Yeah.
You want a different company making that
game.
game.
There's the MMO, and I'll fist bump you whenever you want to play that together because I love the MMO. But Old Republic's been killed. Like, it's not even a thing.
The only thing I'll say is last year was reported they were going to do.
Holding on.
I am holding on. I
Your life,
on Sugar Republic.
Dude, it's dead, and he's like,
the Old
Disney,
Republic.
bitch,
Just the Old Republic.
I'll kill you. No, go for it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just the Old Republic. That's the only thing I'm holding on to. All right, BioWare can go. Fuck it. You know, whatever. But the Old Republic, they apparently are either working on a show or a movie.
Admittedly, you're right. I had forgot there was.
I don't know if that entails that a game will happen because they're not making a Mandalorian game despite its success, as far as we know. So, with that, I'm not going to assume that is, the case. But I feel like the acknowledgement of that universe, it's important. It's going to be a big deal for me when that's actually real. But when it comes to BioWare, I think they have failed every test. I think their last game, if it doesn't work, I will go that far, is Dragon Age 4. If they don't get Dragon Age 4 done, I think EA shutters them because I don't think they've dropped something super profitable in their last two launches.
Dragon Age 4 was ultra profitable.
You're talking about Inquisition?
Sorry, Inquisition, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yes. I'm talking about Andromeda.
That was the last good one.
Andromeda and Anthem, I can't fathom was profitable.
There was another one, too.
Matty, if a new Old Republic, we'll keep it broad. If a new Old Republic game gets announced and we're not in the middle of a global pandemic at that time, which who knows when we're ever going to be out of one.
No shit.
I will come visit you in your studio. We can throw a party. We can get lit, do whatever. Because I understand that will be the ultimate Matty announcement at this point. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. It's literally a new Knights of the Republic game. Of any kind. Old Republic game. I'll even specify. A new Old Republic game. And then number 2 is a TMNT open world game.
Dude, we'll have a party. We can stream it on your YouTube channel. We can, it can get as, as greasy as you want. We can go wild. Yeah. If Karak is there too, Karak, I know that
it's funny because this is my number one game of all time. KOTOR is my number one. That's how Matty and I started. Oh, dude, KOTOR?
I knew it was for Matty. I didn't know it was for you.
Dude, it's ridiculous. I don't even. Do you know why I don't talk about it a lot? Because I have moved on, and Matty will not.
I will not.
Matty is the little kid. He still
Matty's
believes.
a little kid. Dude, I won't allow it to happen, man. My firm belief is BioWare is not the same company. Rare's not the same company. Like, these companies change. They have different hearts. And if I think about it, I get depressed because one of the best gaming times in my life was inviting friends into my office to show them the trailer for Knights of the Old Republic because I was so blown away. I had not seen this before, and they were showing like the ships attacking Taurus, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what's Old Republic? Because at that time, Old Republic wasn't even a thing. It wasn't even like widely known. Especially to me. Yeah, it's Jade Empire, Old Republic. Old BioWare is my legit favorite company of all time by
so good.
But they're just not.
They're not that, and they never will be that.
Yeah, and that's why it depresses me, because when I think of Anthem, I don't even think of Anthem as being BioWare. I had to look them up, because I've separated now. Like, through the years, I've separated them into something. But I'll be right there with you, dude. I love the MMO, too, and I know a lot of people hate that game. I fucking love Knights of the Old Republic. So
that's the thing is, I feel like I speak it as someone who was ignorant to it. I started playing it again for the first time in, I want to say
year, right?
Mid 2018 was when I picked it back up. Yeah, it was about 2 years ago because I had been very convinced like this isn't the KOTOR I like, and I went back and played it. I was like, the storytelling here is fucking good. I was like, what was I? It's very good MMO. I feel like people who don't like it, not everyone, but I think there is a degree of ignorance because they just want KOTOR, which. This game isn't KOTOR, but there is a lot of that level of great storytelling there. Like, all I'm telling people is just do Imperial Spy and tell me you don't like that story. It's fucking legit.
Or Trooper, dude. Trooper is
good.
Trooper is fucking delicious as a story, man.
Pretty good outside of I think the consular. I don't
remember when they were like, remember when those bitches stood up on that fucking stage and they were like, it's 7 versions of KOTOR, and I was like, fuck you. And then I played it and I'm like, okay, fuck me, because I'm wrong, because it is. Because I was so mad at them. I was like, it's not KOTOR. It's fucking, the stories can't be that good. And I played the Trooper, and I remember just playing it, and I was like, this is an MMO, and I'm still having fun, which is rare for me. Secret World and maybe one or two other MMOs have ever had stories that I've been engaged with.
Yeah, I remember that, man. They said KOTOR. I think they said KOTOR
3 through 9. Yeah, and you're just like, dude, fucking shut up. Yeah. And then they left, by the way, too. The two doctors, right, who put all of this together were destroyed by the fans themselves. I remember when the one who now brews beer, and they were like, would you ever return? And it was like, yeah, I brews beer. You know why? He's probably drinking every night going, that fucking bearded fool who told me fuck you when I said it was 3 through 9. But he brews beer, and they were like, would you come back? And he's all,
fuck no. Good, bro.
The fans are ruthless. He was like, it's just not, it burned him out, man.
I don't blame him. All right.
Good times. Good memories. Jade Empire 2, by the way, though, that one needs to be made.
I would like that. Yeah. They trademarked Jade Empire again for something. Yeah.
Dustin, do you ever do Jade Empire, dude?
Nope.
Dude, martial arts, but like an RPG.
Tiny punk magic all together. That shit's crazy.
It's insane. This is a really good choice on a Pirate Bay. I'll just say that much. All right, we're going to rapid fire through this story here, and then we'll hop into the patron questions. So this one is about Ubisoft again. It comes from Kotaku. Not all Assassin's Creed games will be backwards compatible on PS5. Ubisoft released a statement saying most of our back catalog of games will have backwards compatibility between the next and current generation of consoles, with a few exceptions. These exceptions include some of the publisher's other games, which the full list includes Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Assassin's Creed Chronicles India, China, Russia, so that's the whole Chronicles series, Star Trek Bridge Crew, Wolves Within, which I guess is a Ubisoft game, Space Junkies, and Risk. So you'd have to get the board game, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. Obviously, the most notable thing here are two things. Number one, Syndicate's on the list. Number two is that these were not included in the PlayStation blog post that had like 8 relatively, outside of one, I think, relatively obscure games listed there as not available for backwards compatibility. Ubisoft offered no further comment on the matter, but I just wanted to know if you guys are going to start to expect to see more games come out, or more companies start come out and saying, yeah, this game doesn't work backwards compatible, or this one doesn't. Do you think that's going to start to happen more? Or this might be like just a one-off.
I do, just because like Microsoft's been pretty open. They said a total of like artificial intelligence as well as people, 500,000 hours of testing backwards compatibility.
That's so crazy.
And Sony said nothing. My assumption is that this will happen a little bit as companies don't want their games to run poorly as well. So what you could see is a Ubisoft saying, whoa, we'll patch up Syndicate, right? We'll fit, maybe there's a VSync issue or whatever. And it has nothing to do with power, by the way, it's just compatibility. But they look at it and they're like, hey, we'll take care of this. We'll get this, and I have a feeling you're going to see that. And Sony also just stated, like, they'll run. But they didn't really say, like,
right,
they were approved or anything. And so anybody who's got, like myself, who's moved Windows, even if you ignore that for a second, but just because you throw more power at it doesn't mean you can't have issues. Look at Skyrim when you ran it with too many frames per second, it would fuck up the entire game and all that kind of. So it does require a little bit of thought. So I think we'll see some games. It's sad Syndicate's on there because one of my favorite Assassin's Creeds, but
there's a reason it's getting left behind.
You dick. Whatever, dude. You like fucking Battlefront or whatever that fuck hardline game is.
I can go back and see if that game's good
whatsoever to talk to me about good games. But no, I'm just joking. But yeah, I think we will see this for some, but I don't. Sony's been so quiet about the backwards compatibility that I don't know what to even expect. So I'm not super bothered by it. I'm just like check mark to look into, if that makes sense.
You gotta wonder if there's just like some, poor Japanese guy who endlessly was like putting PS4 games in PS5, and it's like, does it boot? Yes. Compatible. Does it? And then he gets to Joe's Diner or whatever it's called. Doesn't boot. X.
Right.
So that is the biggest thing about the story to me, is that why is it that these games from Ubisoft say, hey, these don't work, but they weren't on Sony's list? That doesn't make any sense to me. Somebody is either Sony's testing. That's probably it. Sony's testing is just probably wasn't as vigorous as Ubisoft when they were going and testing their games.
Probably. Yeah.
So the question is, when they say, okay, most of our back catalog of games will have backwards compatibility, with a few exceptions. So I think, Karak, you had said maybe it's just like a VSync, or maybe there's some issue. I wouldn't be surprised if these games do boot on PS5 and then there's just some issue.
Transparency issue or something, yeah.
Right. So either way, it's still, I am feeling concerned, and I have been since the beginning concerned about PS5 and PS4 backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
And this just confirms my concern.
We shall see. Don't want to stretch the story out too much, but we'll see if anything develops of it. It's definitely something worth keeping note of. But now,
a company can't do everything. I was just going to say, a company can't do everything. They've got first person, they've got their first party. They're doing all their shit. If they drop the ball on backwards compatibility with some titles, I'm okay to say, all right.
Yes.
Because Microsoft is doing their part and they'll miss some things. Sony's doing their part, but I still feel that both have made the jump far better than prior ends.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why I feel that. I just feel that as an energy from them. I'm like, they're fairly solid systems, and they're trying with backwards compat. I don't know if you guys remember, aside from Xbox, Sony had a PS2 in the PS3. Like, that was the only way they could even do backwards. Right. Remember those days? The PS3 fat, and it looked like a George Foreman grill. So
it's beautiful. It's a beautiful
thing. It happens. I hope it gets fixed, but I'm not going to hold it against them if some games don't work.
Yeah. Certainly most work, so that'll be a good thing. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we move into the patron questions, which you can submit, through our Discord. So by all means do so, which a lot of you did. We have a lot of new patrons this week. I was skimming through some of the questions to see how many we had. So we're going to go ahead and start things off with your boy T Nasty. Hello, I just started my Patreon membership today. Thank you. Here's my question. If Fallout New Vegas does eventually happen, do you think it will take place after the first game? And if so, which ending for the first game do you think would make the most sense for them to canonize? Thank you. I don't know. How familiar are you fellas with the Fallout lore? Or should I just take the reins here?
Take the reins. I'm pretty familiar, but you take the reins.
Oh, okay. I don't think... I think the ending will matter, and I think it's going to be one of the more, like, either they're going to check the data and see who picked what the most, whether it's like, oh, they picked NCR or they picked Yes Man. I think they're just going to go based off that. But I don't think it's actually going to be called New Vegas 2. I think like any other Fallout game, it's going to be a new game, deeper in the timeline, in a new setting, because it makes it accessible for everyone. If they did New Vegas 2, though, that would be really cool, because it'd be very different. They've never really quite... I guess technically, right, they have Fallout 1, Fallout 2, but never seen like a game with like a subtitle in the Fallout genre get a direct sequel that I can think of. So in a sense, they are sequels of themselves. Like Fallout 4 has some characters from Fallout 3, like McCready's in Fallout 4, but like I don't think you're going to see the level of a sequel that you're thinking of. But if they were to pick an ending, I would say maybe the Mr. House ending seems to be one that's like a little universal. Keeps all the factions intact and all that shit. Or am I thinking of the right one? Think so. That or NCR. That'd make the most sense too. Ivory State writes in, hey, hope you are all doing well. So as a big Arma fan, this looks like it's for you, Karak. With over 2,000 hours in Arma 3, it's looking like there won't be an Arma 4 for a good long while, as they are working on a new engine, and there has been next to no news on a sequel. It's one of the most annoying and exciting times to be a fan of the series when you are in limbo between games, and you can speculate on what is going to be the next one and await the next announcement. My question is, what are some of your most memorable games you have waited for in the past to finally get an official announcement? And second to that, are there any series that you were sure you were going to get another game, but that game never came?
I already brought up Kingdom Hearts earlier, but that one for me, I mean, I don't know, that E3 that they announced, they had that teaser for Kingdom Hearts 3 with Sora picking up the Keyblade in the sand. Very emotional moment for me. Was it for you, Maddie?
I screamed, yeah.
Oh.
Like, actually, I'm not even saying that for like hyperbole for the mic in the audience, sorry. But like, I actually was in my friend's bedroom and I was like, like I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy shit, it's happening.
I mean, for those games for us, I mean, Maddie and I are about the same age. Like, I remember playing Kingdom Hearts and, you know, when I was in like 2nd and 3rd grade, and then Kingdom Hearts 2 just shortly after that. And so it's like a very nostalgic thing that we had waited for so long, and to see, you know, Sora on what at the time was like this fresh new generation was just like, you know, we went a whole generation with PlayStation 3 without getting a mainline Kingdom Hearts game. So that was like super emotional for me. And then dude, when that game finally came out, I remember picking it up at midnight at GameStop and like being like, wow, this is really happening. Not that it was like, I knew the game was probably not going to be like my game of the year or anything. I had my expectations in check, but it was just such a, I was waiting to play this game since I finished Kingdom Hearts 2 in 2004, right? And so
something like that. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and I was in elementary school. And then when I was picking up Kingdom Hearts 3, I'm like, I am an adult. I am married. I own a house. It's finally here. I'm in a completely, I'm not just in the next stage of life. I'm like multiple stages of life.
That's going to be me with Elder Scrolls 6, because I'm going to like be in a new house, probably gonna be married at that point. Like, you know, for me, I guess with the way you're speaking, like it wasn't that different for me. Like I still lived at home, still in my same bedroom when I got Kingdom Hearts 3 as I was playing Kingdom Hearts 2. But yeah, man, that's so funny you bring that up. I'd probably be in the same boat with either KH3 or obviously most of my audience knows Fallout 4. That was a special announcement for me. What about you, Karak? Any announcement that, I mean, you brought up the KOTOR trailer. Would that be it?
Yeah, but I didn't know KOTOR was a thing because it was back before the internet. Like before I had it at home. I was at work and it was a trailer that was like at 280p and that was considered high def. Remember, there was not even high def when KOTOR came out. There was def. There's just the thing.
Just definition.
Just def. But I'll tell you for sure, Mass Effect. Mass Effect was so ridiculous because I'm such a Star Trek original fan and such a Flash Gordon fan that I remember sitting at my home and having that menu on, and I was afraid of clicking the start button because I was like, what if this is not as good as like I thought? And the music was just that fucking 70s synth, and I was just like, holy shit, we're finally here. It's been so long, and that was back when BioWare, Bungie, and Bazaar, when Microsoft had the 3 Bs, and it was like at that time Microsoft was hitting on all cylinders, and it had just been game after game, but that was the one I cared about, and I'd waited a long fucking time for that, and I think that's one of the few that's actually exceeded expectations for me.
Second part of his question is, are there any series out there that we were sure we'd get another game and that game never came? I'm sure everyone knows my answer, but you gentlemen can go ahead.
So series, so he means at minimum 2. Yeah. And we thought there'd be a third. Minimum 3. Okay.
Oh. Okay, that ruins my answer.
Ruins mine too.
I mean, you could, I'm sure he maybe wasn't being as like.
That was too easy, obviously. There's got to be 2.
KOTOR. Come on, Karak. That shit needs
KOTOR is like the easy one. I was trying to think of something.
Answer, though.
Oh, you're going to take KOTOR. Okay, you said,
for sure.
Okay. Oh, what were we saying, Dustin?
I would say Tomba 3, but I was never sure that we would get another Tomba game.
What the fuck is Tomba?
Dude, Maddie, I can't believe this. Every time this comes up, you disappoint me. Okay,
Tomba. It's coming up multiple times on our show?
Yes, and you're like, I don't know what that is. I'm like, Maddie, get on board. The comments have my back. They all know what Tomba is. I don't know if anyone in the comments knows what Tomba is, but I'm going to roll with it. Tomba 1, Tomba 2, fantastic games that from a now defunct studio, Whoopee Camp.
Whoopee
Camp, dude.
All right, listen. Well, hopefully we get a Tomba 3.
Dude,
Dustin. It's so good he's lied to our audience.
When did I lie?
Saying that the comments are stating Tomba is as
Listen,
amazing as
if you agree with my statement here, Type in the comments. This is different from the ending hashtag. Hashtag bring back Tomba. We'll see. We'll get a total of 3.
I'm so happy this is deep into our podcast.
If there is 3, I will consider it a success.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Mine's Pandemonium, the platformer. There was 2. And I was a Sega Saturn fan, but it was a PS1 game. But I remember I had never seen 2.5D before. And that was that game where you could like go around a tower, you know, as you care. And it was a fucking character that was like, looked like a mime or a court jester and a chick. Such a weird platformer, but they did 2. And I've been waiting for a 3rd for years. Like just waiting, but.
Karak, you just pulled something out of my brain that I didn't even know was there. This game.
What?
I remember
like
renting this game at like the grocery store video rental section.
Oh, back in the days when they full on had them. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Next question comes in from Mothra. Hi, guys. I hope you're well. We hope you're well as well.
I don't believe Mothra would ask us that.
What?
It was a joke about Mothra being a monster from Godzilla.
Oh.
Continue.
Oh, fuck.
Continue. Age joke.
Yeah.
Continue.
I'm young, you know. What direction would you like to see Persona 6 take? What kind of setting? How about the color scheme? I'm betting on green, but we'll see. Your bet is correct, I'd say. I think green as well.
Purple.
Dustin, we have like a whole show talking about this, don't we?
I was going to say, I feel like you guys told me already the color scheme even.
We've had this question before, but I'm perfectly happy to answer it again.
To do it again.
A little bit more here. She writes, every Persona game up until now has featured a main cast of high school students, but what if they branched out to more various age groups with a predominantly adult cast? Thank you for reading my meandering Persona question. Nothing wrong with that. We are certainly happy to address the Persona fandom here. Yeah, we've settled on green. Green's the official color, by the way.
Dude, no, Maddie, I didn't say it was going to be green. I said it was going to be purple, dog. That's what I want.
It's Persona 1. It's Persona 1.
Yeah, because he said purple, because I remember we talked about this and I joked about Saints Row. We've definitely had this conversation about color scheme. Because I didn't even know they did color schemes. And I remember telling you guys, I was like, what do you mean color schemes? Because 4 was the first I had really dived into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say green, set in a college. I don't know where.
I don't think college, bro.
Yeah. I think they'll keep doing the high school thing because anime is out of ideas.
Yep. Yeah. Anime is so mentally bankrupt that there's no creativity in that anymore. It won't change.
I joke to my wife, Holly, watches all kinds of anime. And I'll sometimes like come downstairs from working and she'll be watching something. I'll be like, oh, I was actually wanting to ask you, could you recommend me an anime about high school students? Right. I just think that would be a really interesting idea. So, yeah, they'll probably keep with the high school thing, unfortunately. But I don't know. Maybe
in Japan,
it is.
College isn't even the same thing as it is for us, by the way. That's another thing. Even Europe is slightly different than us, but each one's different.
I feel like Catherine is like the Persona team's take kind of on an adult cast.
Still haven't
and what that would look like. I think Catherine was actually supposed to be a Persona game before they went in an entirely different direction, if I remember correctly. So I don't know if you have looked at that yet, Mothra, but you should. It's a really good game. I love Catherine. They have full body on like all current
It's
systems.
So good, dude.
I love
full body
game.
Was awesome as well.
Yeah, really good choices in the story. It's replayable. I beat it twice.
Maddie, what do you think about the set? She, asked about what kind of setting. I think that Persona has to stay in Japan, personally. Yeah. I think that's a core to the identity of the franchise.
I would like a small town again, kind of like Persona 4. I kind of like that. I feel like 5 grounded it so much. It's so much of its world in reality, right? You were going to like Akihabara and stuff like that, and that was cool. But I think like I'd like to have like a big, kind of like an Inaba, but like it's more 3D and explorable. I think that'd be really neat. I would enjoy that personally. I was looking at Persona 4 earlier today. I was like, wow, what a game.
what a game, Maddie. Damn.
All right, let's move on. We got still a ton of questions to chop through here.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I know. So I'm trying to like just keep the pace here because I saw a lot of new patrons. I was like, dude, we can't just ditch them on episode 1 of their.
I'm good. Let's go. I'm feeling energized. I think I had like a late lunch, so I'm not starving right now. So.
Okay. Yeah, I eat later on Fridays. I probably should have suggested that to you gentlemen before.
We're going another 3 hours is what I'm saying.
Oh, no.
Let's go.
Do you think there will be a PS5 Pro? Comes from Tropical Ice Cow.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. I would imagine there's going to be a
They'll
half
make
step.
the money again. For sure.
2. What improvements would you like to see in open world games for this gen? For example, GTA 6 with driving mechanics similar to Forza or Project Cars. Is that even achievable yet?
Yeah, but they don't want to go too sim on your open world game.
Mm-hmm.
So I could certainly see them probably already, and in fact, sim might even be easier to do than, really loosey-goosey, because you have a lot of issues with NPCs crashing and shit. So,
I would say, I'll go for it, Matty. Sorry.
No, I was actually just like thinking while talking, so you can go. You sound like you have an idea.
I don't have it fleshed out. I just would like to see better AI, because I feel like in so many open world games, AI is just like, yeah, it's there. But if you take a closer look at a lot of the situations, you're like, yeah, this is doesn't really make sense. Obviously, it'd be really hard to do very believable AI, but hey, we're on a new generation. Let's see what's possible.
I know we were talking about it with Legion, but I do want to see entering more buildings. I've always liked that. When games let you do that, it feels great. I don't know why opening a door is so satisfying. Like where you walk into a door, you're like, and you like you see your character put his hand out, and you're like, yes. Just great feeling. So more explorable environments is good for me. Number 3, what can CD Projekt Red achieve with a 3-week delay if the game is already gold? I understand that development doesn't stop, but I am really sick of day 0 patches. It allows them to get the disc printed and published and ready to go to retail while they still honestly work on the game so that they can get it out in as timely of a fashion without saying like, okay, let's work this, like kind of like a PS2 game. We're going to work on this. Okay, it is officially done now. We will not be doing any more on it. Now let's print it. It pushes your schedule back. So that's the idea, and that will never change. Sadly for you. Anything you guys would like to add?
I think it's just important to remember that when you squash a bug, they have to squash a bug on 9 different versions of the game right now. So even if they are just tightening up a few bugs, they have to do them on all the different versions of the game.
Outer Worlds shipped with a bug that fucking caused your people to become impervious to damage when you fucking entered a discussion while somebody was on a ladder. Like, that's one game. Yeah. Remember that bug? And they were like, we can't figure out why people are what, and they tracked it down. They were like, this is the weirdest thing. So yeah, these they have to do a bunch of stuff. They can do a bunch of bug fixing, which is the biggest thing.
Wasn't it one of the Fallout games? There was a thing with like a cowboy hat that like broke the game. If you had this cowboy hat in your inventory,
like if you wore
Colin
it,
mentioned
or if
it.
You put it in your inventory or something.
It's like something was breaking the game. I'm gonna have to ask Colin or re-listen to Sacred Symbols because he mentioned that like they couldn't figure out what was going wrong with the game, and they eventually narrowed it down to if you had this certain cowboy hat in your inventory, it was causing this specific bug.
Oh god,
but
weird, man.
I know, Fallout.
My fat cock writes in saying, what game benefits the most from the Cyberpunk 2077 delay? Consequently, does any December game suffer as a result? I think it's pretty clear, right? You'd say Valhalla benefits most, and the biggest sufferer is, I guess the suffer could go up to a lot of games. I think it's Immortals Phoenix Rising, personally.
Yeah.
Because Path of Exile delayed their big update out of December into January. Literally, they said because of Cyberpunk.
Well, and so did just this morning, the space roguelike. Well, it's the sequel to that, Everspace. Right?
Everspace, that's what I was going to say.
Everspace 2 just stated pretty clearly that due to the delay, they are delaying theirs farther.
Wow. It's interesting. It's interesting how it works, right? J. Lopez 7331 writes in, I have a question for you three, but more so for Maddie. Uh-oh, I've been targeted. Do you think that after Fallout 3, we have a lot of Fallout questions this week. This is strange. Do you think after Fallout 3, the other Fallout games have lost a bit of their horror edge? For instance, the Dunwich buildings, Vault 87, and most of the northern map during the night for Fallout 3 was eerie or scary. And I'm reading ahead a little bit. You didn't even mention the metro tunnels. Fallout New Vegas, being the great game it is, still lacked the suspense horror element. For Fallout 4, it felt like none of that except a bit in Far Harbor. Personally, for Fallout 4's art design, it felt a little too happy for me and too many days with bright skies. I know there are mods, but I wish there was a first moment experience. This is very true. One of my favorite things growing up, and I think part of it was because I was just younger, was Fallout 3 was very creepy to me. Fallout has not been creepy since Fallout 3. I didn't even think of that. I guess I kind of just started to like the role-playing aspect a bit more, but yeah, Fallout was very grim, especially the old isometric games. 2 was a lot of fourth wall breaking, but it was like, for those who got to the end of Fallout 1, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like pretty fucked up. The beginning of Fallout 2 is really fucked up. Like, I feel like it's stepped away more and more from what made it dark and creepy. This is a good observation. You guys ever find Fallout a little scary, a little shit in your pants, maybe?
Whoa.
The first one had some solitary feeling to it. There was something about, like, I remember listening to the call it Vault Boy, in almost like a desire to have somebody talking, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I can't remember if this is Fallout 3 or 4. I remember, so one of the things I did like in both of the games is like finding a vault that you don't have a quest for. There's just like a curiosity about what kind of fucked up shit went down.
Inside, yeah.
What's the one where there's like a guy, like there's people that all say the same thing?
Gary.
Fallout 3. That freaked me out. I mean, it was like funny and creepy at the same time.
Yeah, it was like a cloning vault.
Dude, in Fallout 3, I specifically remember like finding a vault and being like, this is going to be creepy. Whatever is inside is most likely going to freak me out. And enjoying that aspect of it.
And that's the best part, is when there isn't a quest, I think what happens is your brain tells you, you don't know if somebody's been there. If there's a quest, you're like, well, how, I'm being told to go there, or somebody's there and I'm rescuing them. So it's like, it's not as mysterious. So yeah, I like the idea of finding one with no quest, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, what could possibly be in here? That's very cool.
JK writes in, this is a tech question, so I think it's going to be passed off to you too. Have you guys taken apart your old gaming systems that maybe had some issues, like the disk tray won't open, overheating, etc., and tried to fix them? I've been taking apart my older consoles, such as the original Xbox, PlayStation controllers, and handheld systems that didn't operate as they should, and while the process is a bit tedious, it's a good feeling to get them working great and play the older titles I enjoyed back in the day. Jake also wrote in on my stream saying that part of this was because I posted a game collecting video on my Patreon. That's just like 30 minutes of me just going through my old fucking collection. So it's funny how it's turned into this whole process. But have you gentlemen ever had to repair like an old system or anything like this?
I've taken a ton of systems apart. I have zero success putting them back together.
Yeah,
Zero.
Only one I was ever successful with, and I know it sounds crazy, right? I just remembered this as I was saying to you guys that you'll take the reins, but I do remember my dad at his job, his friend gave away all his NES stuff, and when I got it, it did not work. And so I remember like opening it up, cleaning it, resoldering stuff, and I actually got it working and played a little bit of Super Mario 3. But literally, as a idiot teenager, I got it working.
Damn.
Like, okay, I'm done. That was it. I don't know what was wrong with me. Why I just put it down after that. Not bad, but yeah, that's my crime. I couldn't tell you what specifically I did outside of that. I just remember like, cleaning it, blowing it a little bit. Have you ever fixed a system?
I've opened like a ton of old consoles like since I was younger. Like I have a Sega CD that didn't work, that I figured out that some kind of like capacitor in it was busted. And so I soldered it off and then just wired it, which now as an adult, I'm like, that capacitor's there for a reason. So if I use that thing, if it at some point, if I use it, it's just going to fry itself and then be completely dead. But yeah, I mean, even recently I went through like a Super Nintendo collecting phase like a year or two ago now. And so I like opened those up and cleaned them out and stuff like that. And I recently opened up both my PS4 Pro and my friend's base PS4 to clean them out. Just because those, if you really want to extensively clean them, you have to like open them and take shit out of them. And even then, it doesn't help. It's still going to be loud as fuck. Trust me.
Wow.
The only way you're going to make that quieter is if putting on new thermal paste. And even then, it's iffy. But yeah, I love, tearing shit open and seeing what's inside. The only thing I've ever bricked is an original Xbox. And that's because
So did I. I tried to hack it.
I soft modded it and I was successful. But I flew too close to the sun and I did something in the file structure that fucked it.
Or you rebooted it. Did you see that? Because I soft modded it as well, and there was a warning that no one read. Denny in my Discord and I were just laughing about this because he came over and you soft mod it because you're talking about the hardware or the hard drive soft mod with 3. So when you soft mod it, it states in there, until you do a particular thing, do not reset the Xbox or it will brick. We thought it said restart the Xbox or it will brick. And so we restarted it and found out later.
Yeah.
Was this back in the day? Where did you get this data? Do you remember? Was it like IXO News? There was like or ISO News. There was an old website that used to have like
ISO sounds right.
ISO News, because ISO's the name for like a file structure. I think it was ISO News where I got mine. Do you remember why you did it even back then? Your Xbox?
I think that because I had like Xbox Media Center on there, so I don't know if I was watching like pirated shit. Right. I also was running like emulators on it. But it's funny you brought up these like guides and stuff. Here's a low key fact that I have not shared publicly in a very long time. At one point in like 2007, I had the most popular tutorial on how to hack the PlayStation Portable on YouTube.
Oh, weird.
Over 1 million views.
Oh, damn.
That is no longer up. So there you go. That's a.
Did they pull it down, you mean?
No, I took it down at one point. I mean, it was so outdated compared to other hacking methods. But yeah.
But
so yeah.
YouTube money, Dustin.
Dude, I remember when I got a check from Google for $100 in high school, in like whatever. I was in like junior high and I was like, holy shit, I've made it.
I've made it.
That's gold right there. At that age, you could do a lot. That's like 4 movies. There's so much you could do with that.
Yeah, I was set. So
all right, our next question comes from Steve Wolf. Hey guys, hope you're having a stellar end of October. With Halloween coming up, my first question is, what would your dream horror game look like? I.e., I really want a sequel to Alien Isolation. I saw a write-up about that recently. I got to try that game again. And secondly, with reports of crunch culture and shitty workplace environments at many gaming companies these days, what dev do you have the most respect for? Oh, so do you guys have a dream horror game? I've sort of lost my infatuation with horror personally. I feel like a lot of companies don't do it right now. They just try to like, ooh, scary. It's like,
Mine would be called and spelled ALAN space WAKE space 2.
Oh, I was going to say mine's called Bloodborne 2. So we were on the same train of thought.
That is a horror game, regardless of like it's, how it plays. Bloodborne's definitely that. And yeah, Alan Wake would be like because I agree with Maddie. I think almost all current like horror games just do not do it for me. And Alan Wake was more of a Stephen King, a little bit, psychological plus scary, which I buy into a little bit better. Yeah. Clive Barker's Undying was also an amazing one, but I don't think we'll see again.
Question 2 is, with reports of crunch culture and shitty workplace environments at many gaming companies, what dev do we have the most respect for? Who maybe tries to avoid that or tries to do it right? I don't know. I feel like all these devs got their demons, right? Like, it's really hard to think of one that's full on doing it right.
Yeah, this is hard for me just because I don't. I feel like the way you'd be able to judge this is if you're friends with somebody or what the culture is like, because a lot of times that's only known by the people that are there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for the most part, my connections are with indie developers. So I'm running
their own show.
Right, exactly. So Karak might be able to speak this a little more than me.
Larian Studios. I've heard.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
never really heard anything. You know, I think that what's his name? I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. The guy who runs it. Fucking, he's the one who does the Baldur's Gate videos of him playing. Shoot, I can't remember his name. But Sven, right? Isn't that Sven?
Oh yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Sven. He, from all intents and purposes, it feels to me like he knows what makes a good group, and I have never really felt or heard anything that would indicate anything otherwise. So I would say probably them.
Yeah, Larian's a really good choice. That's one I'd pick too. They seem to really have a process. I'm not a fan of their process in the sense of like, oh, early access, and I'm like, I just want the full game. But it works, and I've not heard anything from them.
And it might be why we're not hearing it, right, Maddie? That might be why we're not hearing about the crunch, is because that might be helping them.
Yeah. I'll piggyback off your answer because I don't really think, because I feel like if I'm just talking about a company that doesn't have bad PR, then it could just be them hiding something. So I think Larian's a pretty good open example. Natural Calamity writes in with one of the most gracious articles to be read on our show. Music to our ears. Before I get to my questions, I want to say this is my formal truce, and I want to say good game, my good sirs. I will adhere to the 2-question/well-written limit, but I hope you know how much this pains me. This is my brand. How dare you, sir? I am now known by this feat, and you rid me of this. How dare you? On a side note, this is the best part of my week, and being a part of this little inside joke makes me crack up, and I love it. Keep up the good work, and long live H.A.M Radio Podcast. Huzzah. Now, to the questions. Thank you, Natural, for adhering to our rule set. Victory is ours. I'm kidding. We appreciate you writing in and listening to our feedback as we listen to yours. Question 1. What are your thoughts on Assassin's Creed becoming more like Hitman? I've been playing Hitman 2 lately and thought the thought is interesting to me, and I see it so vividly, and it might work. Creating a new era of Assassin's Creed, stemming away from Odyssey and Origins, have no chance to be similar. If the game takes more of a level approach, it could allow for more content and bringing back the focus on assassinations and methods you can take in eliminating your targets. I kind of like this idea. I have not you guys have played a lot of Hitman. I'll admit I have not. What do you think of an Assassin's Creed game structured like a Hitman title? Level by level, assassination targets are the focus. I guess would it just be Hitman with a new skin at that point?
Yeah. It wouldn't be much different than what we've got.
Okay.
And
I like the idea of something that focuses on assassinations for once, though.
Then Hitman 2 is the game to go with. I mean, Assassin's Creed just isn't that anymore.
Yeah, it's an RPG, open world adventure.
Right. And I mean, a game like Hitman is so much more niche than, I still think that Hitman has broad appeal, but
I know exactly what you mean, though.
It would not appeal to the wide group of people, the wide margin of people that like Assassin's Creed. They would say, what the fuck is this?
It'd be really cool if they had missions, though. Like, you do your open world stuff, and then you have missions, kind of like a Hitman. Almost Unity tried to do this, where there's multiple ways to take out your target. And multiple
Let me tell you how many ways you're completely wrong.
Oh,
and you tell me. No, here we go.
Oh, fuck. You're about to get
but
spanked,
I want to hit back on this and say, you just described the very reason that when Assassin's Creed began, it was the way it was because people wanted it open and able to do whatever and not mission-based and not mission-structured. So the reason why Assassin's Creed exists is because of that desire to get away from those things. And it's never been, let's contain everything. So it just seems, why not let Hitman do its thing? Which is levels, but they're getting bigger, guys. Colombian level on Hitman 2 is massive. I mean, like it's a city, you know?
Okay.
And so is Hitman 1. Do you guys remember the really Esponzia, I think is what it's called. It's like a hamlet. It's like a not a hamlet, but it's a town. You know, it's big enough to have its own square and everything. I don't know, man. I mean, I get what you mean by it'd be cool to have levels, but at that point, it's not even. I mean, what that seems to be even more of going away from what we want from Assassin's Creed versus, let's say, just putting more assassinations in, the ability to assassinate.
I get that. I guess my idea was more so, and I don't know if this is what you were directly responding to, is like, hey, you have your, say, Valhalla, where what we've seen so far has shown like open world activities, go and do what you want, making choices. But let's say you have a target that you have to take down that it's not a level, but it's more like, okay, you kind of like, Hitman, you walk into like, I don't know, Paris or something, and you just sort of see it all presented in front of you, and you're like, okay, I got to figure this out now. Something kind of like that, where taking down your target can go any way. It's not just as simple as like in 3, where you just hop from a tree and boom, stab them and they're done. Something a little more freeform and open, just for those assassinations though, not the game itself in its entirety. They did do that, right? Like Unity is, once again, a great example. It was open. You did your shit, and when it went to an assassination, it did confine it. I didn't have a problem with that though. I like that. Everyone can go look up my Unity review. I like that game, but it also ran well somehow for me on an Xbox One. I don't know how, but your point is fair, and I think it's probably widely more agreed upon than mine.
So you liked Unity more than? Would you say you liked Unity more than Odyssey and Origins?
No, I like Odyssey more. I just think the thing is I think Assassin's Creed remains as relevant as it experiments. I don't think it really has an identity right now, because people are like, oh, it used to be the assassination game, then it was the open world history game, now it's like an RPG series. So I just think like, okay,
it's really whatever they make it to be.
It is, which is, and it's great because, you brought it up how most of those games review pretty decently.
Yeah, strangely enough, they other than Unity with its tech issues, a lot of people still, like yourself, love Unity. Every time I mention Syndicate, a lot of people will be like, well, I liked Unity better, but I played it later or whatever.
The parkour montages in Unity are insane. Seriously, I saw Digital Foundry put out a video showcasing how Unity runs actually properly on consoles now with the Series X.
Yeah,
so if you are getting a new gen console, I would recommend, if you got Unity, pop that sucker in, give it a second try. Especially because it's only a couple bucks now. You're not going to be like handing Ubisoft a ton of cash for a product that they did drop the ball on, and you might end up liking it. Question 2 from Natural Calamity: do you see VR getting to the point of Ready Player One? I know Maddie probably doesn't get this. It's a movie and a book. I actually do know this, believe it or not. It has
Maddie
VR suits, VR
books.
treadmills. I know, right? I love how the audience knows me so well now. And an actual ecosystem to exist in, plus a monetized world. So you ever see VR getting to that point? You got your own little world in a world. I think that's very anime. But I will never say never.
I think that it is anime, but I think that in the next generation, especially when you see what Sony's doing with their PS5 OS and what they wanted to do. I don't know if you guys remember, the PS3 was supposed to use Home as its OS. Do you guys remember Home? Do you remember that fucking MMO? They wanted that as an OS, which is ridiculous. It's like, it would take me 17 minutes to sail my boat to the fucking ocean to start a game. Like, who thought that was a good idea? However, people want those. And I absolutely do believe there's actually a story I'm reading right now where the story is based around the fact that because of everybody being so contained and so close to each other, they buy and or rent or purchase virtual worlds for themselves to exist in versus their own real physical ones. And I would state that we're already there in the purchasing, but it's like we're a warrior and WoW. It's not going to, and we're buying houses in a lot of these games. I don't see within like 5 or 6 years there being some crazy stuff. And then if Elon gets it right and, takes that fucking chip out of the pig and puts it in the back of one of our heads, who knows what'll happen. Did you guys see that where Elon Musk put a chip in the back of a pig's head? It was like reading its mind. What
the fuck?
Dude, getting step by step closer to Frankenstein every day. I love him, by the way. I want him to continue that shit. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's conflicting. Ready Player One, I read the book and watched the movie, and I hated both of them. Just because they're so... Dude, the crossover porn is just too high. As far as integrating VR into our everyday lives like they do in the movie or the book, whatever, I feel like it is... it's inevitable. It's just going to take to the point that the technology itself is no longer cumbersome. It needs to be as easy as like wearing glasses or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I feel like it's definitely an inevitable situation just because people, it'll be the easiest way to interact with each other. I mean, we're already half living in a digital world with our phone, right? People,
God,
you can't sit down and have a meal with, and myself included, you can't have a meal with somebody without having one foot on your phone. Well, one hand on your phone and one hand with, eating a burger or whatever.
Don't you also believe, do you also think then that what we'll see is, so like if the COVID continues, that what we'll also see is like those technologies happening faster? Because I feel like we're going to get, now not everybody's tired of what we're in. They're tired, but not tired. It feels to me like if it continues, companies will start looking at like virtual vacations and be like, how do we do these things to where, and I feel like technology can increase because of this, unfortunately, but it feels like I see that. By the way, I'm not telling people to do VR porn. I've done it for research only.
For research?
For research.
Fucking Pyramid Head from Silent Hill. You don't want to do it. Cameras are fucked up, and until they fix that stuff, don't mess with it. But I think once porn gets fixed, we'll see a lot of this too.
Karak, somebody could create the Karak sandwich in VR for you.
With 2 Karaks? What?
No.
Oh,
where you're in the
yeah. Oh, last episode.
I got you. Okay, because this was going way off the rails for a second.
Dude, 2 Karaks. Like, this is the reverse Karak
He
sandwich.
almost popped out of his chair there, man.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I'm egotistical. Even I don't want to fuck myself.
Wow.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but like the reverb is pretty high res. Reverb 2's coming out. I think we only have 1 or 2 gens before those get pretty crazy. And then, like you guys said, it's about wireless and comfort, right? It's got to be like wearing glasses minimum.
Dude, the weird thing about VR for me, because I've messed around, whether it's in Playroom or VR chat, there is some weird social thing that it's able to connect into your brain, because like I have some sort of mild social anxiety talking to people that I do not know. That makes me feel uncomfortable. Not that I can't, like, it's not like I lock up and I can't do it. I just would rather not in most situations.
You're more conscious of something of that occurring.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the first times that I was in a lobby of VR players and thinking like someone just came up to me and tried to talk to me, and it triggered that same thing in my brain, even though I'm sitting on my couch.
I don't mean to laugh, just I get that.
Yeah. No, it is funny because it just seems like I have an LCD screen strapped to my face, but somehow I'm talking to another person that has an LCD screen strapped to their face, and the social interaction between the two of us, something about VR, it's able to trigger the same feelings that I get in real life, which is
they're even able to fix height, worry about heights now.
Yeah.
They were showing that like multiple different stuff. My wife does, she's a psychologist, and she was saying that like multiple VR trainings are coming out where she's thinking of getting a headset, because you can now do like molestations. I don't want to get too dark, but there's certain things you can do and show people so they can become accustomed to even like adults being around, let's say, or you don't trust women or men because of something that happens, and there's ways around those kind of things, which is very cool. But again, I think Dustin got it right. That's all great, but he knows he's got an LCD on his fucking head. And until they can fix that to where you're not thinking that, to where it's more natural, I think we still run into some issues. It's got to feel natural, and it doesn't right now. It feels like a TV on your face, and it's hot. And if you've ever done a game and you move your head a lot, pretty soon your nose hurts.
Yeah.
There's some discomfort there. So
yeah. Red Eyes White Wolf writes in, "Hey guys, I'm a new patron that was introduced to Matty's channel years ago when he reacted to leaked Fallout 4 gameplay that some kid, quote, stole, end quote, from his grandpa. Still a classic." I do remember that video. That was one of my favorites. For my question, my friend let me borrow his PS4 to play some single-player exclusives. He has Persona 5, but not with Royal. I know Matty has been vocal on Royal, bringing far more value to the game. But since I have the base game only, is it worth it to rebuy the game for Royal, even if I've never played the game before? Also, no. I am new to the franchise and have never Karak, you're wrong, and have never
you,
been really interested in anime content prior, but am willing to find. I had to stop for that, but I'm finally willing to give it a chance. So he's giving it a chance. I think he has to go with Royal, Dustin, and not Karak because he has to give it its best shot.
Can you manually mute Karak out of this conversation? No.
Man.
So here's the question. The question is, how long, first of all, are you borrowing this PlayStation 4? Because hopefully it's for a while, if you're even considering either version of Persona 5.
That's true.
Second, if you're in the United States, I just saw that Best Buy is going to have Royal for $20 around Black Friday.
Wow.
And so that'll include either in-store, or if you don't want to go in-store, you can probably order it online. So to me, at $20, it is especially a no-brainer to play Royal instead of, the normal version.
Yeah, you can.
Is there a video or website, or did you guys do one that describes why that would be so? That describes the differences, like why they're profound enough for that kind of thought process? Because that's pretty unique. You usually don't see that.
Kind of like the one that Dustin edited it.
Oh,
I recorded it. It's a long video, but at one point we talk about what changes in Royal happen that should be carried over into future Persona games, and there's like it's a good 20-minute section almost of just like darts, social links, team attacks, show times, like just boom boom, like they added a insane amount. Usually with those like re-releases with like a tagline at the end, you're like, oh, DLC or repackaged bull crap. I don't know. Once it opens up more and more, it's insane how much they really did add. It did justify the 60.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah, I actually, for Handsome Phantom, if you search Persona 5 Royal changes, the third video that comes up is my video, and that was before I even beat the game. And I think that so the video I did is primarily on mechanics, like Maddie was talking about, but we cannot talk about, for me, the main reason why it's better, and that is the new content, which I think completely changed my view on the story overall. Is that going too far, Maddie?
No, I agree. I liked Persona 5 story. I always liked it because of its style and its gameplay. Its story was good, but Persona 5 Royal makes it like a unforgettable story. Like that is no exaggeration.
Next level.
It is that good.
Which
highly recommended.
You guys are selling you dudes a fucking bill of sale. You do not trust them. They're fucking lying.
Dude, here's the thing.
Here's my question, though, real quick. Let me just ask one question.
Sure.
If you're playing this brand new, like he is, right? So he's got what he said is he's got the original, but you guys are saying that Royal, for a person who's not a fan or doesn't know if he's a fan of these games, is still worth buying over the original. The reason why I was saying I don't agree is because I feel that the original was well good enough that you would like it. You would become a fan regardless. Like there's not enough difference between Royal and that for somebody who's brand new to jump and spend more money if he borrowed somebody's PS4. That was sort of my thought process. But what you guys are making it sound like is that there's a story difference.
Yes.
A massive story difference. But I didn't find that the first version had a bad story. So how does that work out? Is it more or is it fixing stuff?
It's so hard to describe. I don't know. I mean, Maddie, maybe I don't know.
But you are saying that it changes something enough that
as far as I would go to the length of saying by the end it feels like a whole story overhaul. The beats are the same. You go through the same palaces, but there are moments in between that kind of build up a thing that's going to happen at the end of the game. That is
okay. That's
really 20 more hours of like, oh fuck, like this is crazy. The reason I also suggest Royal is if it is his first time, 5 is good enough. The thing is also that they added a lot of quality of life enhancements that I think make Royals a lot easier. Yeah, they fixed the cat too. They fixed issues.
I'm taking my answer back. I agree.
That slander's gone.
I agree that there's no slander, but the fucking cat I couldn't stand. Yeah. So they do fix the cat, which is well worth $20.
So here's the other thing to add on to this is that so He's never played a Persona game, right? Is that what they said here?
It's what it sounded like. Yeah.
Never played. He's opening up to the anime stuff. He said he's never really been interested in anime content, but he's giving it a chance. That's why I think you want to give him his best chance.
That's the thing too, is that like my worry would be is if someone started Persona 5 and not Royal, is that they would get so many hours in and be like, this is awesome. And then for me, it's this like, well, if you play all of Persona 5 right now and love it, then you're missing out on this huge, amazing addition that Royal brings. And there's no fucking way you're going to play the game again for at least a few years. So you should, if you're anticipating that you're going to enjoy it, just start, because it's such a large amount of time that you're dedicating. You should dedicate it to the best version of it.
Yeah, that's well said. I would agree with that. Yeah. Well, the decision is in your hands, Red Eyes, White Wolf.
Yeah.
We
need to know if you liked it, because that would be better if he comes back. Because I fucking hate this game.
Yeah, he's just like, this shit sucks. I'm back on COD.
What the fuck? you just see him leave Patron. You're like, why did that guy get mad? He sends you an email. You fucking liars.
Damn.
Kirk Solaris, Chad Narakami, writes in with 2 questions. The second one, I don't think we can answer at all, because it's asking Karak if, which console he prefers so far, which I don't think you could.
The N-Gage is the one that he prefers.
I had an N-Gage, man. I had an N-Gage, so.
Damn.
Yeah, damn is right.
Damn is right.
So Kirk, his only question is, what are the chances of PlayStation doing another handheld console? Oh God, mute me now, because And is this something that you would want or endorse? All right, I'm shutting up. You guys, you'll be more realistic than me, please.
No, it's not happening, because VR is the new third pillar of PlayStation. Well, I guess right now there will be 3 pillars of PlayStation: PS4, PS5, and I guess they kind of flow through them. But
don't you also think streaming has sort of replaced mobile in a way, or like them? It seems like the only way forward with mobile gaming, right? Whether that includes phone or something more like Switch, is that it has to be one of the two, because phone games are cheap to develop for the most part, and they can make a lot of money. The problem with the Vita is that it required console-like development budgets for smaller games. And so the Switch hits a perfect medium that you can put console level development into a mobile game, or, mobile as in a mobile console, right? So yeah, I don't see PlayStation taking another shot at it. I would love another Vita, but I don't know, Karak. I don't know, Karak, what you thought. I agree with all that. I wasn't a huge fan of Vita, but I also wasn't a huge fan of, what's the other one? PSP.
PSP.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of either one of those. Sorry, my earphone thing got stuck. So I wasn't a fan of either one of those, but I've been a fan of, like, I had the TurboGrafx. I had the Game Gear, which lasted for 5 minutes.
Dude,
best batteries ever. But I just don't see Sony doing that. I don't. How do you even want to? And especially with Nintendo talking about using DS. I mean, now we're sort of seeing that for sure happening, where they're going to do DLSS in the Switch. Why fight it? Why fight multiple battles when you're already winning in one and you have ways to build up? Sony's winning in hardware, arguably. They're doing different things, but they also have VR right now. They're still, we don't know what's going on with Microsoft, though there's been some hints. So I think they only fight on so many fronts.
Right. It's funny, dude, the Vita. I remember when I bought my Vita at GameStop that the guy at the counter tried to talk me out of buying it.
Talk you out of it?
Which is, I don't blame him, because I think that he was just looking at, like,
scheme of things.
He was looking at it like, okay, there's no games coming in boxes that look big or exciting.
Right.
And so from his perspective, it made sense to dissuade me from buying it. But not,
you know what? That's pretty crazy that a salesman tried to dissuade you too. So all props to him that he was like, maybe there's something else you should get.
I had a GameStop employee dissuade me from buying Red Steel on the Wii when I was in like 6th grade or 7th grade when I got one. and I believed him, and I bought something else instead that I don't know if it was any better. But looking back now, Red Steel, not worth the money.
Yeah.
He did me a huge solid.
Right. Yeah.
As promised, I stayed silent. Next question comes from Grimblade. Early previews of the PlayStation 5 have been pointing out that the stand is less than ideal and is especially unstable in a horizontal placement, but I don't think it will be a major issue in the long run. What stories do you foresee about the wacky accidents with the PS5 getting knocked over? Yeah, I'm going to be fucked, man, if you got to stand that thing vertical, because it would literally be in the view of my TV. It has to be horizontal. That thing cannot go anywhere else. It has to be horizontal.
I think I can talk about that. Physical, yeah. It's verticality is it is an issue. It is a
how
real
tall it
issue.
is,
and the weight distribution.
Oh,
so yeah, so bumping something with it, right? I tweeted about this because I can talk about that. I have an Xbox X. Like I don't. We're not really allowed to talk about it until a couple of days, but It is just on. It is there. Wherever you put it, it's there. It's not moving. It's almost like it's part of your desk because of its shape. It's like you put it down. It's not moving anywhere. That PS5, man, like I never felt safe with that anywhere except where it is now, which is like secreted and actually Velcroed to a bar to hold it in place. And I don't think that's going to be a huge thing for a lot of people. I do see Reddit stories, the Reddit GIFs, whatever you call them, of somebody accidentally having their dogs knock one over.
I don't.
Yeah.
It's just not a concern for me in the fact that
I don't think it's a concern for normal people,
right?
Preston.
Yeah,
but I mean, somebody who's like gonna post on Reddit with an elbow, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. Are yours going to be horizontal? You said though.
Yeah, it's just gonna go into a slot in my entertainment center.
Exactly.
And then
exactly horizontal, no issues.
I will move it
vertical
up here for when every once in a while it'll move around my house, but even then it's not like, I don't know. I'm sure you're right though, Karak, in that like we saw with the Wii and people throwing their remotes at the fucking TV during Wii Sports.
Exactly. You can't really ever like prepare for dumb, right?
Right.
Or dogs. I have dogs, and I will say that as a dog owner, I've seen things not possibly be knocked over that are knocked over. You're like, that's impossible. How'd you knock the house down? Like, that's fucking hail. How did it do that? And I'm going to tell you right now, that PS5 never going vertical in the living room. Never.
Oh.
Because my dogs will play and I'll hear, something hit and, it won't take much. But I mean, inside of any normal cabinet, you're good to go. And I think the thing is it's just not, it's such a unique look. I think people want to put it like the fucking crown, the Tower of Sauron or whatever. And I'm like, dude, don't. Just lay it down like it should be. Fucking just lay it down and move on. I
don't know how anyone could put it vertical in like 90% of entertainment centers.
Exactly. I mean, how do you even... I don't even have room to put it vertically. It has to go, because if I do, it's like right next to the TV or something. It just doesn't seem like it would be a really smart fit. Mine
would have to, if it was vertical, it would have to be sitting beside my entertainment center on the floor.
You guys also get nervous about, so I don't know if you remember, but the 360 would scratch discs when you put a disc in vertical. I have had DVDs of all different types, and a couple were vertical, and I'm always still nervous as well. I just want to put it horizontal. Just feel safer.
Well, yeah, because when you put in the disc and then it just rides in,
and
it's something about it. I'm like,
they always slide a little bit. So like you'll put them in, and they're like, we have a retainer. You put it in the retainer, but you see the DVD go like, just a little bit when it goes in, and you're all,
yeah, I get you. Yeah, that bitch is going horizontal. It is not getting knocked over.
Wow, that should be the tag.
I will
Matty on his grave. That bitch is going horizontal.
I will square up my PS5 and beat the fuck out of it.
The Google algorithm is like demonetized.
You're out.
Mac the Knife writes in with an unpopular opinion. He says, Microsoft now has 2 Doom series, one made by id, the other made by 343. If Halo releases in a similar state as what was shown, do you think the series is officially done? I think it's a game that has unfortunately just hasn't adapted to the times, and it may be doomed. He didn't say pardon the pun, by the way. Since 343 is trying to please both the new players to Halo who enjoy the faster style of gameplay of today's FPS and the OG players who want to keep the nostalgia. It's such a hard spot to be in without pissing one side off.
I think we talked about this though.
We did.
We did.
You guys,
we
you
did.
guys read the future, so
But
We did.
Microsoft has 2 Doom series. I do not agree with that comment.
What
at
does he
all.
mean anyway? I don't know what that means.
that they would split off and do 2 Doom series with these.
Well,
I think.
Does he
No,
just
I
mean that there's 2 strong FPS games in their lineup?
I mean, technically, yes, then that would be true, wouldn't it? But I wouldn't call them 2 Dooms. Like, I think Doom Eternal is kind of in a class of its own as a shooter.
Right. Because he said one made by id and the other made by 343.
Oh, he is talking like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't. That classification to me doesn't. I don't think that holds water for me personally. I don't
Right.
think they're 2 Doom games.
I mean, Doom Eternal's multiplayer is. I mean, they tried to do a more traditional with the first Doom, and it didn't work out.
Should have kept in Eternal.
Did you guys try this new one, Eternal? Because
I
don't even.
don't.
I
like
didn't
it.
really like it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's too bad. Okay.
It was fine. I just didn't feel compelled to
just-
sit down and.
Well, that's
Right.
enough,
What a
right?
mistake.
Compelled
Yeah.
is what we need since there's so many games. It's like you
Right.
got to be compelled. Ghost of Tsushima compelled me to reinstall it, so can't say that
True.
about Doom.
Yeah, it was just the perfect way to keep me hooked, and it was just like that's what the first Doom 2016's multiplayer did, and just I did not like Eternals. I was just like, this is so boring. Paco Luigi writes in, we have 2 questions left. Happy Friday, gents. So I just voted, yay, civic engagement. Good. My question, outside of politics, because that's incredibly polarizing in this time and space, is what other civic duties do you find important? How is that tied to your region of origin, upbringing, etc.? Hope you all have a good weekend. Best, Paco.
Civic duties.
I have a subtle one. It's one that a
Go for
lot
it.
of people fucking forget. Leave the door open for the person behind you coming into the store. I hate that shit when someone doesn't do it for me. Or if someone does it for you, thank them.
Yes.
Thank someone for doing a good gesture. I hate when I leave the door open for someone and they just walk right by me. I'm like, fuck you. I will not do that for you if I see you again. But that would be one of the things. I don't know if that's necessarily as engaging as voting, but thank people for doing good things. That is a civic
Donate
duty.
all the time.
Yes.
I would say we donate so much shit. I told you guys, I think prior to the podcast, but I'll rebuy it because I'll donate it. I'll be like, nah, I don't need it. And then a week later, I'll be like, fuck, got to buy that again, or whatever it may be. I think donating is probably the most important, especially right now with like families and the way they are. You know, people losing jobs. Like a bunch of people on my Discord just recently lost jobs and they're teachers. So, you know, weird people losing their jobs. And what I mean by weird is they're at normally that wouldn't happen at such a high level. So you get like 50 teachers losing their jobs versus let's say 1 or 2 because they're condensing. So people like that may have a good family. You know, they may have thought, oh, we're going to be fine. So we're going to have 3-4 kids or whatever. And now they're in deep shit. So it's like we donate. I think donating is huge. I think it's probably one of the most important things. You can volunteer, but I think volunteering is really now almost impossible. I know there's a Big Brother program that uses digital to volunteer, like Discord, but I think you hear about suicides a lot, and that's bothering me because, like, I think a lot of it's probably stars where they feel nobody's watching them anymore and attention. But you get other people too who are they're isolated. So I think volunteering and being like, I don't know what you would term it, a friend to somebody who is fucking, you know, maybe their only outlet was school and they have a shitty life. Because I don't know about you guys. I had a great home life, but I had a lot of friends who didn't. They would come to school to get away from their home life. And there's no school. So they're stuck. And, you know, they might be stuck in a really bad position. So I think all those kind of things are probably...
Donating is a really good one. Yeah, I almost
donating,
forgot about that
it doesn't really cost you anything.
It doesn't, man.
You know,
it's
just sitting there.
I always say to people, you know, what I do every year is I'll, you know, because I have clothes, but like I know I don't wear all my clothes. Every year I will go into my closet and I will grab a trash bag and I will fill that fucker. I'll fill up like 3 of just clothes, socks, pants, whatever, and just give it all away. You know, a lot of people like to repurpose their clothes, which is cool too. It's good for the environment, but just give that shit away if you you're not wearing it, man. That's what I say. Styles
Have
are
a lot
always
of homeless
changing
here too, so it's
Yeah.
like, you know, a lot of people, and it's cold. So, well, you're snowing, didn't you say?
Yeah, it was snowing
It's
here.
snowing. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like makes sense.
Hopefully it's not snowing on my way home. But yeah, man, it's donating is a really good one. That, or if you've got the funds to do so, to money to organizations. It's another good
Yeah.
one.
I don't know if mine is classified as like a civic duty, but something that's always been important to me is supporting your local community through businesses and different aspects like that, just because not that there's anything wrong. Like I'll go down for McDonald's anytime. Like I'm always, ready for something like that. But I'm also wanting to support just the people that are in your, local area, whether it's like restaurants or services or something like that. Just feeding into the local economy if you can.
I do that, yeah. Local card shops, especially, and a couple of restaurants, absolutely,
Right.
that aren't like chains.
Yeah, it's hard too. I mean, especially
Never thought
like
of that, yeah.
you mentioned card shops, like they need it probably more than ever with people
Yeah.
either
Oh,
as-
God,
well right now in the pandemic, or just because people will just buy something at Walmart or Target
Or
or Amazon.
online. Yeah.
It's difficult. I want to always support local shops. I had an instance with one of my local shops where their service was so poor that I was like, yeah, I am going to get this on Amazon because of the way you handled this order.
Yeah, at that point, it's on them, right? Like,
Right. But yeah, always supporting, especially too, like relating it to this podcast. If you have a local game store, first of all, realize how much of a blessing that is, because like
yeah,
there's no kind of local game store where I'm at all. Whether, and even if it's just like used or something like that, that's such a cool thing to have. And especially if they have new games, the margins on those are terrible for them. So if you can buy there, whether it's a new game or a used game or something like that, keep them alive.
yeah. I've seen a couple near me actually go out of business. I forgot what it was called, but there was one that was near me that like let you test games out before. Like it was perfect for a high school student, especially. They let you, before you even bought the game for $60, like you could test it on one of their consoles, play it for an hour, see if you liked it.
Yeah.
They had like tournaments the night before for like new Call of Duty, and if you won the tournament, you get a free copy of the game. Like, good way to kind of build the community. Yeah, it was really cool. And they went out of business. I forgot what they were doing. They went out of business because they were distributing games early. And they got caught.
Oh, that'll
They
get
got
you.
caught, didn't they? Yeah,
They got caught.
I joke about it because I've had to use it for reviews, but you can't ever say who you got it from because companies will go after them.
Yeah, and
There's
they
like a place
sank
in New
their
York
ship.
New York City that always releases games early. I don't know how they get away with it. I had
think I
some
know what
dude
you're
ship
talking
me
about.
Persona 5. Like, I had him overnight it to me, and it was over a week early because this store sold it.
Well, I told Maddie about like some things I've done, and I'm not going to give my secrets away on an open podcast, but a while ago there were some games we were trying to get, and I was like, dude, I've already got it. And there's just certain places you can go where it's just like, what? How the fuck did they get it that early? I do remember Witcher 3, by the way. One of my friends is from the Middle East, and he was like, dude, they've had Witcher 3 for like a month just on store shelves. And it didn't have that day one patch that added like some HD. But I'm going to tell you right now, most people would not have cared. Like,
Right.
at all. And yeah, so some of those guys are getting really early. Well, we joked about, CD Projekt Red delaying it. It's like, who knows if there's a leaked copy out there of the
It's
gold
really possible,
or whatever.
man.
It's
really
very possible. It's
Dude.
very possible.
We are less than 2 weeks away from next gen. One is going to leak probably next week. That we're just going to get a full blown, someone has the console, someone's showing off all the UI, deep in menus. It's going to happen probably
Unless
next
the
week.
coverage breaks soon. If the coverage breaks soon, which
That,
I know
and
Karak
that's
can
the
comment
thing.
on.
I don't know about you guys, but like one of the things I'll do, like if I do see that, I'll tell the company. I won't tell on the person. I'll tell the company and be like, hey, they're going out. Can we just do our video now? And matter of fact, Xbox, what you guys recently saw with the pictures, where people were saying, hey, I got my Xbox, that was moved forward. So, like, sometimes they do, you know, and I don't think it was leaked. I'm just saying they just moved it. Sometimes embargoes will move forward. I've had a couple times where I'm doing a review and I'm like, okay, I'm going to record it tomorrow, and I'll get ready to go sleep and check the email. And they're like, we've decided to open the embargo, you know, a day early. And you're like, oh, fuck, man.
Right.
So,
yeah, we've had that happen.
have you had that? Yeah, that's sort of a bitch. It sounds like it'd be positive. It's not if you're not ready for it.
Right.
All right. Last question, gentlemen, and then we can go manja. Funk Rat writes in, kind of piggybacking off of Mac the Knife's question, but with Halo Infinite's development troubles, do you think we could see id step in and assist with / make the next Halo game? Not really related, but I know id assisted BGS with Fallout 4's gunplay during development, which you did definitely see. Also, they hired someone who worked on Destiny to help with the gunplay. So for sure, I'd say this is something that's entirely possible, but what do you gentlemen make of it? Do you think there's going to be a little bit of a tap on the shoulder over at id saying, hey, we don't know how to make a fucking game? Can you teach us?
I'm guessing the problem with Halo isn't the gunplay.
Right.
So that's my answer to that.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree.
That's my answer too. I was just like, dude, that probably isn't even on the list of shit. And if they did, I bet you we wouldn't hear about it, because you don't want to make everybody then worry about your shooting in your shooting
the
game.
Thing that you think's like, it's
like
right?
Fallout.
Like
Well, that's what I was saying. Fallout, if they said, hey, fucking so-and-so's helping us with Fallout, I'd be like, great, because Fallout's shooting is shit. But if they're like, if so-and-so's helping us with Halo, then all of a sudden you're like, what were they doing for the last 5 years? So, yeah, I don't think we'll get that.
All right, gentlemen, that's our last question of the show. We did it 3.5 hours. Probably our longest episode.
Let's keep going. Why not?
Every
Come on.
time you say we're done and it's the longest episode, sooner or later, we're just going to start the Friday podcast at the end of the next Friday podcast.
Oh, dude.
I feel like it's the longest.
That means we're having a good time. It didn't feel like that. If you told me I sat here for 3.5 hours outside of just getting up real quick to get a drink,
I would have never thought 5:30 for me. What's the hashtag?
I thought it was something roasting me. I don't know. You guys had something.
Something roasting you?
Yeah, I was getting cooked up for something. I forgot what it was. Was it me me holding on to a shred of hope for KOTOR?
Oh, hold on to a shred of hope for that fucking KOTOR. Yeah, it's not hashtag not gonna happen.
Hashtag not gonna happen. Yes.
That's just rude.
No, that's fine. Every time I see that, it'll I'll just bitterly stare at my phone.
Yeah,
and
just swallow back that hope.
Just so
and
that
just shove it down, Maddie.
when it happens, I'll be able to scream into my microphone even more justified.
You will. You'll be able to be like, dude, I told people Final Fantasy VII was not going to happen. I had to eat some big crow because it got rebooted so many times. I was all over my podcast being like, fuck you guys, it's never happened. And then it gets released and you're like, all right.
I get that, though.
Damn.
That's a reasonable prediction, because I bet that barely made it out in the scheme of things.
It feels like it did.
Yeah. All right, so if you got this far and you want to insult me at the same time, the hashtag is not going to happen. You can go ahead and let me know for sure this time that you got this deep. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that'll wrap up episode 275 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast. We thank you for your time, and we hope you enjoyed. With that, we will catch you next week with episode 276. I almost fucked that up. All right. Peace out.
Out.
See ya.